Okay, time is 6 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the budget workshop. No, that'll come a little bit later. Okay. So if you may go ahead and proceed.
Okay, we have Ms. Cancino who's going to be presenting. All right, Ms. Cancino have a nice presentation for us. And I think, Board President, board members, I think you all have a copy of the presentation. And here is insurance.
This right here.
Oh,
Yes.
the insurance. Not the budget.
No? Okay.
Well, I think the budget workshop's about the insurance.
Yes.
Okay, good evening, board members, Dr. Asayas, ladies and gentlemen. We're here for the presentation of the health insurance fund. The school district went out requested proposals for the medical, pharmacy, and stop-loss insurance. We received a total of 9 proposals that were reviewed by our insurance consultant, Mr. Jared Wills. He's here with Holmes Murphy. So we'll be presenting, or he'll be presenting that information in detail. The RFP was issued on June 29th. Our deadline for questions was July 13th, and the submission deadline was July 30th. So they, in essence, was a month from release of the RFP to the deadline. And we are bringing it today for review and at the board meeting for consideration. These are the proposals that were submitted. You have Capital RX out of New York, who submitted for the pharmacy. You have United Healthcare, who submitted for all 3 medical, stop-loss, and pharmacy. SA Benefit Services out of San Antonio for stop-loss insurance. Blue Cross Blue Shield, BCS Financial for stop-loss. Stop-loss insurance services for stop-loss only. Blue Cross Blue Shield for medical and pharmacy. American Healthcare Administrative Services for pharmacy. Sun Life Financial for stop-loss, and Freight Benefit Administrators for medical and stop-loss insurance. These proposals were reviewed and analyzed, and Mr. Wills will be going over the information from, you're not, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were asking a question. We'll be reviewing the information. So Mr. Wills,
Thank you. Good evening. Jared Wills with Holmes Murphy and Associates. Thanks for having me this evening. As Ms. Cancino mentioned, we moved fairly quickly through the timeline. So from RFP submission to response to analysis to trying to get to a place where we can get our arms around what came in and what are some of the pluses and minuses and the various options. We did all of that in a compressed time frame of about a month. Typically that process is a greater part of a couple of months. So we understood that the district was under time constraints with open enrollment right around the corner. So in doing so, we all collectively, district, senior leadership, and Holmes Murphy worked diligently to pull this together. One of the first things that I did when we were hired is we realized that the district was in a funding shortfall. So they said, hey, we're going to run over our projections this year. Can you help us take a look at that? What do we think it's going to be as we finish up this fiscal year? What is it going to look like going into next fiscal year? And can you help us solve for trying to balance this budget going into next year? So the next couple of slides will give you kind of a high level, 50,000 foot look at, here are some of the things that we looked at, which kind of led us into kind of the secondary pieces as we're analyzing not only the RFP responses, but how could those potential vendors help impact the expenses inside your health plan, and ultimately what would that look like and feel like to the district and its employees in the form of plan design, contributions, access to providers in the marketplace, etc. So with that, as we go through looking at a couple of slides, this is what we call a rolling 12 per employee per month look at your health plan. And At any given point, I'm assuming you can see this.
Yeah.
Ah, perfect. Perfect. So if you take a look at any one of these dots, this green line represents your actual experience. And if I were to take as an example November of 2017 where the red dot is, that's taking 12 months worth of your actual claims experience in your medical plan divided by the headcount that generated those claims. It just helps normalize if you added or took off employees throughout the course of the year. But just trying to say what was that on a per employee per month basis. When you graph that out over the time continuum, you can actually see that on average, the medical spend for the district was at a negative 5% over that period of time. So one of the first things, again, hey, we're running over budget, what's going on? Are claims spiking? Do we have large losses? What's going on in the plan? This was one of the first indicators that we looked at. Second piece is we looked at your pharmacy plan. Did the same thing. Take any one of the 12 months on the graph, divided by the head count that generated the claims, and you can see pharmacies run relatively flat. Doesn't necessarily mean that your pharmacy spend has been flat. If historically you made an increase in co-pays or cost shifted to employees, that can reduce costs that is seen by the district. But this is just kind of the net effect of what the district saw in pharmacy spend, and it was relatively flat. So going to the next slide, again, this is just kind of setting the stage and summarizing what the current state of affairs is. These are the current plan designs offered by the district. So if you look in kind of the upper left-hand corner, you've got basically deductibles and out-of-pocket expenses, and you have three plans, a medium, high, and a premium plan. Your medium plan has a $750 deductible, your high plan has a $450 deductible, and the premium plan has no deductible. You can see that the out-of-pocket maximums are different amongst each of those plans, obviously a little bit higher on the medium plan. And you have various co-pays. So like as an example, on the medium plan, you've got $25 copay, regardless of whether you went through a primary care physician or a specialist physician. And then pharmacy benefits are kind of highlighted at the bottom, just as far as the copays for generic, brand, non-formulary, etc. So we just took a look at the plan design. You will see on the next slide, where are the folks currently participating? It's hitting something, it's not doing something. I've got a clock. So bear with me. It's on my computer, but it's just answer. It was fine before you touched it. No, I'm kidding. I just And actually, if I had a hard copy, I could roll without.
Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So if you look at the next slide, hopefully this will check back. I don't know, I guess it got locked up. Okay, so the next slide, if you get into this is taking a look at the cost projections. This is on slide, hang on a second. Yeah. No, the next one is looking at enrollment and contributions. So enrollment and contributions is showing where your employees, where the employees are electing by plan and by tier. So you have five-tier plan design from employee only through family. If you have one or two children, you're on one tier structure versus if you have three or more. And then across each of the plans, the medium, high, and the premium plans. You can see that most of the employees in the upper left-hand corner are on that employee only medium plan currently with the district.
Will,
Yes.
Will, right? Is that correct?
Jerry.
Jerry, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Jerry?
Come on back.
Real quick question. I saw that we only have 2,420 people enrolled.
That's employees, that is correct.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Ramirez, don't we have 2,600 employees?
Well, it could be the ones that he has in the insurance plan. I know I don't buy the insurance, so I could be one of those that doesn't count. So I don't know how many we have that are not.
We have about 2,550 employees. Enrolled in the medical plan, we have 2,420.
Okay, so there's employees out
Yes, we
there
have
that don't?
about 130 employees that don't. It
That
could
don't
be a
want-
combination of either they are insured with the spouse, or with the marketplace, or somewhere else, or no insurance, if that's what they choose.
And what was the number, 25 what?
About 2,550, the last count.
Okay, but that's now.
Correct.
But about a year ago, it was a lot more.
About 2,600, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. And across the bottom of the slide are just the monthly contributions that are taken out of employee payroll deductions today. So again, from the medium through the premium plan, employee only through family, you can see what those are today. So there's just a placeholder if you need to flip back and forth between those slides. All right, so this was kind of what we were solving for. So you think in terms of the left-hand side is the fiscal year 17-18. How many folks do I participate on the plan? How much money am I taking in, and what am I projecting my expense to be? And the way that we did this, and this was a Holmes-Murphy internal underwriting calculation before we ever did the RFP process. So you'll see that the numbers will differ ever so slightly once we receive responses, so don't hold my feet to the fire here, but they're really close. But basically what you can see is Donna Independent School District was funding about 14.6, almost $14.7 million in annualized premiums. The employees, their payroll deductions was just shy of $2.8 million for a collected total of $17.4 million in premium. The projected expense, and expense are really kind of in broad categories. They are, what do I pay for third-party administrative services? So today you have Blue Cross Blue Shield that pays administrative, pushes the buttons and pay claims and answers phones and all that kind of good stuff. They also, you lease a network from them, so access to providers in the marketplace. That's part of the administration expense. The actual claims that get paid for medical and pharmacy are included in those. And then stop loss. You currently purchase stop loss insurance to help protect against large claims. Basically said differently, I'll take the claims up to a certain level, and your current spec deductible, we'll get to this in a moment, is at $300,000. Claims in excess of that, I want the insurance company or somebody else to take that. That way it keeps my claim volatility somewhat in check, and you pay a premium for that. You add all those expenses together, it looks like you're going to finish up the fiscal year at just shy of $21 million in expense, leaving a shortfall of roughly $3.5 million. So the shortfall is about 20%. So then if we just take the claims and project those forward without adjusting anything else, you stay with Blue Cross, the district, and the employees continue to fund the current amounts, it would project almost a $5 million shortfall. So that's really the solve today. Okay, it's $5 million, stay with Blue Cross, and not doing anything, not changing it. That's what I gotta fix. So that's really kind of the task at hand through this RFP process. And you'll see us walk through all the various components and pull it all back together at the end. Obviously, feel free to stop and ask me questions along the way.
Is that fixable, Mr. Wells?
Absolutely.
Then let's
Let's
work
jump
on
to
that.
it.
Okay.
We have that in here.
Okay.
Yeah, through the RFP process. Okay, so what you ended up with is basically 3 responses back on the medical side. You have Blue Cross Blue Shield as the incumbent. You can see the bullet points there, not to regurgitate or read for you, but basically you got a great reputation in the marketplace and had good access and had a good comprehensive quote for review and evaluation. United Healthcare, as a national company, insurance company, once again have a nice reputation, broad network and a good footprint in the valley. I'll call it the Greater Valley footprint. And you also had a Frady's that responded. They are a third-party administrator out of the Oklahoma area. They are more of a traditional third-party administrator that leases a network. In this case, you can lease a couple of different options, whether it was Cigna or IMS. From that would be the network that your employees would have access to, and then you would pay Frady's to process those claims. They really didn't have a pharmacy that they said that they were married to. You could stay with who you have today, which is American Healthcare, or you could choose to go somewhere else. So. Once again, they were probably the least attractive, just given the fact that it has so many moving parts, but obviously on the table for consideration. So in summary, when we looked at all that, we said, look, it probably makes the most sense to be looking at Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Healthcare as far as viable options for the district. On the pharmacy side, just as a quick placeholder, you currently have American Healthcare. They are a pharmacy benefit management company, so they are the ones who not only contract with the various locations where you get your drugs or the mail order programs, but they're the ones who negotiate the discounts, they administer your process, or administer your pharmacy plan. That is who you have in place today. I think they recently got acquired by Maxor, which is out of Amarillo, so they're a Texas-based company. I did make a couple of notes in here that United Healthcare said, yeah, sure, if the district wants to keep them, that's fine. I don't want to tell them no. However, I'm going to have to charge you a $300,000 setup fee, and it'll take me 9 months to implement, and so on and so forth. What they're basically saying is, I've got a good viable option in the pharmacy that I'd like you to consider. And so that's on the table, but I just don't want to tell you no. But given the time constraints and the financial burden, probably would not be a viable option if United Healthcare was the path to pursue. Blue Cross Blue Shield on setup fees probably would have some there, to be determined on exactly what that number is at this point in time.
If we're with Blue Cross Blue Shield right now, and we're with American Healthcare for this.
Yeah, no, the expectation is 0. I just don't have that confirmed in writing. They're up and running and administering that today, so there would be no additional cost there. Would be my expectation. I just don't have
That's an assumption that that would be, there would be no fee.
That is correct. You had another response from another PBM from Capital RX, which is another pharmacy benefit administrator. They had a fairly attractive financial offer for consideration. They said that they would work with pretty much any of the medical carriers. I would anticipate that there would be no cost on the Frady side of things. United Healthcare would charge the same, $300,000 in 9 months, and Blue Cross Blue Shield would more than likely end up having an implementation fee. That would be an additional cost. That is not more if you stay with American Healthcare. Blue Cross did offer their own pharmacy, which is already integrated. They have a financial stake in it. It's called Prime Therapeutics. They are a robust PBM that services the needs for most of the Blue Cross plans across the country. They did have a financially viable and advantageous offer for review and consideration, but from a dollars perspective, it wasn't dramatically different than what you get from American Healthcare. But that is on the table for review and consideration as well. And then Optum came in with their own solution, or United Healthcare. United Healthcare solution is Optum RX, and we'll get to what those numbers look like in just a moment. On the stop loss side of things, if you just want to kind of profile out what you currently have, you have BCS. And BCS is, it's not Blue Cross's stop loss, it's a third-party stop loss vendor. And the reason why Blue Cross doesn't quote your stop loss is because you don't have pharmacy with Blue Cross Blue Shield. They say, hey, look, I'll write you a stop loss contract if you're with me, but if it's with a third party, we contracted with a third party, or we have an affiliation or an alignment with a third party that will help underwrite your medical and pharmacy together. That happens to be BCS, very standard, very normal in the industry. So there's no red flags there. Your current specific deductible is at $300,000. You have a 12-15 contract, which is claims that are incurred in a 12-month period of time but paid out over a 15-month period of time are covered in the contract, and that's a good, solid, comprehensive contract. We could talk about alternatives down the road, because we would anticipate you to be on something like a paid contract, given your size and history of being self-funded, but the 12-15 is completely fine. It does cover both medical and pharmacy, and your aggregate coverage is at 120%. So, quick recap on the individual spec deductible. All individual claimants up to $300,000 are covered under the spec deductible, and then the insurance company pays for that. You also have almost like an umbrella policy that say if my expected claims go greater than 120% of expected, stop loss will kick in as well. So there's an individual and then kind of an aggregate exposure where coverage is there. For illustrations in doing our financial projections, because there's all sorts of options. You can increase your spec deductible, which brings down your premiums, all that. We started out with, look, they're at a $300,000 deductible. Probably makes it's probably about the right amount for a district of your size. So let's look at the $300,000, not the $350 and $400 and $425 and so forth. And then use those when we're doing our calculations, and just realize that if the district ever chose to take on a little bit more risk, for a little bit less than premium, we can have that discussion. But all my financial calculations assume matching in force. In a nutshell, if you think in terms of where are we at fiscal year 17-18, and what is that cost going to look like, we projected at the top in almost that peach color that you would finish up the year at about just shy of the $21 million, $20,800,000. If you stayed with Blue Cross Blue Shield, with American Healthcare on the pharmacy side, and the current plan design as they said today, the three option plan design, the medium, high, and premium plan, we're projecting that cost to be right at $22 million to $22.2 million. The other options would be, and I'll walk through these with a little bit slower cadence. So the Blue Cross Blue Shield, staying with the same pharmacy carrier, but an EPO plan. So basically eliminate out-of-network benefits. So you have in-network and out-of-network benefits today. You have a very, very small fraction of your population that go to non-network contracted providers. Now, I'm not talking about I was on vacation, had to go to the emergency room, and therefore is that covered under my plan. All emergency coverage is in-network. This is I've been with my dermatologist for 20 years. They're not contracted with Blue Cross Blue Shield, but I choose to go to them. Therefore, I have to pay more out of my pocket in today's world in the Blue Cross arrangement. If you were to eliminate that out-of-network coverage, then the plan just says, you can go to them all you want, we're just not gonna pay anything. So just a $0 coverage for the benefit design. If you did that across the board, it's worth almost $750,000 in savings. So just eliminating the out-of-network benefits. It's much more of a prevalent benefit design that we're seeing in the marketplace over the last 5 years and will continue to be moving forward. Is to say, look, Blue Cross in your case has worked really hard to contract with providers to make sure that your employees don't get balance billed. To keep them as much in network as possible and under those contractual arrangements helps with containing costs. For those that go outside, it costs you, the plan, and your employees more money. So that is just an option for consideration, is the elimination of the out-of-network benefits. That's what the EPO stands for. United Healthcare, with Optum RX, if you were to just eliminate the out-of-network benefits and not modify anything else, they're looking at and use their pharmacy. So it's United Healthcare, use their pharmacy called Optum RX, and use their network of providers. Projected cost at $20.7 million, or roughly $1.5 million less than the renewal. The third option down is the United Healthcare EPO option, which is basically saying it's United Healthcare's pharmacy. I eliminate just that out-of-network benefits. And I think the combined savings there between eliminating out-of-network benefits and contracts is worth about $2.3 million in savings compared to the renewal. Frady's, you can see, has about $250,000 in savings. It's there, but less compared to the other two options. And then we just showed that Capital RX had just quoted on pharmacy is projected at $4.15 million. If we then break this slide out, and we break it into how much dollars are going to claims versus administration versus stop loss, you'll see that that's where if the district so chose to say, hey, I want to look at Capital RX as a solution for us, we could show you what that price comparison or between each of the options look like. But before I move to the next slide, questions on this one?
Okay, and this one that you have here, on all these, the deductibles and the co-pays and all that stuff stay the same?
That's correct. The only difference is where you see EPO.
Right, the out-of-network?
Is the out-of-network piece. That is correct.
So doesn't it make sense to just renew on the top line for the BCBS of Texas and AHC?
No, the red numbers
We won't
means
be
that's what you're
saving,
saving.
we won't be saving anything, Mr. Bowman.
Well, the red numbers in parentheses, wouldn't that show as a loss?
It's really a saving, it's a cost.
Less cost for us, for the district.
Okay, so we're gonna have to educate our employees on the PPO and versus the EPO, right? Where they're gonna need to go to an in-network doctors and make sure that their doctors are in-network.
Yeah, the education to the employees about a contracted provider, they're familiar with that today under Blue Cross Blue Shield. Are they in Blue Cross's network or not in Blue Cross's network? The education would be, if they're not on the list today, they can go somewhere else and still get a reduced benefit, but they still get a benefit paid for by the plan. Going forward, if EPO was the path that the district wanted to choose, there would be no coverage. The employee basically is kind of on their own for that expense.
So this is not about the employees, this is about a savings to the district.
Well, ultimately, well, actually, if you think in terms of the total cost of the plan, we'll get to how it impacts the employees. For every dollar, right now, the district subsidizes about 85 cents on the dollar of all the plan expense for all its employees. So as much as we can reduce the overall cost, then has a direct effect into how that impacts employees' payroll deductions and adjustments going forward. And that was continuing.
Yes, the only thing I want to add is that we do have a 99.2% in-network utilization rate. So yes, that's what we have currently.
99.1.
So if the doctor I see now is not on the other network,
Correct. Then it wouldn't be covered. Correct. Yes.
and that's the bigger issue,
Yes.
because I
But-
don't want to change doctors.
Correct. But most I'm not saying most, and I can't say, but I know that Blue Cross has a very extensive network, and we'll go over the network as well. We can't point out every single provider, but we'll give you at least a comparison to Blue Cross Blue Shield, so you see.
I just want to say, as administration, when we try to look for things, we try to avoid to increase the deductible. We try to avoid as much as possible. We try to avoid to also increase premium as much as possible. We cannot control the cost of the medical that is happening in our country. It's across. It's not just Ghana, it's not just Texas. Its cost is going up, and as a district, we couldn't possibly keep paying and increasing. As you saw, it was an increase by almost $2 or $3 million right from the 2017-18 school year to 18-19 school year. So really, we're thinking for what's best for our staff, trying to again reduce or minimize the increase in deductible, and also trying to reduce the increase in premium. So we are looking outside the box, and going with this option, we thought may be a good opportunity to really do that. So that's really what we're trying to do.
The other thing that I'd like to point out is that it has been, like Mr. Cruz mentioned, it has been the trend nationwide to start going limiting or doing away with the out-of-network benefits. If you go and look at the state plan, the TRS Active Care, you'll see that they have, about a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they introduced, they did away with their Active Care 3, which was their high plan, and they redesigned their Active Care 2 plan to call it Active Care Select. And what it does basically is an EPO as well. It does away with the out-of-network benefits.
Right.
Because they're paid at a higher.
It's like
higher
that
premium.
with a lot of insurances. I
Yes.
mean, and if you talk to any practitioner, we have patients back and forth, they have to change doctors, and then their insurance changes, and then they come back. And it affects all the caregivers, but sometimes the patients don't have a choice. If they're like, Medicare, they sign up with a certain plan, sometimes they're signed up automatically without, and if they don't opt out, they're there for another year, and they don't have a choice. By then, they have to go to in-network physicians.
And unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to address every single employee. We're looking to benefit the most employees. And we thought when we looked at it and we compared benefits, we did meet with the insurance committee. And like Dr. Asaiz mentioned, the last thing we wanna do is, one, increase significantly, because the renewal, if we stayed with the renewal and we renewed with Blue Cross as it stands right now, the increases would be very, very high. We're talking going from about $15 that you pay now to upwards of $80-some. So it is a significant increase. So we are trying to find a way to impact the employee's pocket that has the least impact on the employee's pocket and keep your benefits, if not equal, very similar to what you currently have. And we'll be going into more detail, Mr. Wills will be going into more detail as the proposals compare, and you'll be able to see that for yourselves.
And Ms. Cancino, I want to just, our board members, we have actually some of our staff members who are sitting over here.
Yes.
Who were actually part of the committee that met and discussed these options. So I don't know if any of you, and I think I saw a hand earlier, I don't know if.
I just wanted to comment on what Mr. Guerrero said about educating the employees.
Okay.
And that is something that I mentioned at the meeting, is that we can commit our associations, the STA, to help the department and help the district educate our employees. We have campus reps at basically all the buildings. And we have staff on hand so that we can get trained, maybe Ms. Delorios can train us, or, he can train us on what we need to tell our employees. I know I had a doctor's appointment the next day. I've got Dr. Sandoval. I've been with him since I was 15 years old. He's not on the network. So that means, if I choose to continue going with him, yes, it's gonna cost me more, but it's also gonna cost the district more as well. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have already told him that he needs to refer me to somebody else, because I don't want to cost the district and cost everybody else, that's how the decision was made on how to vote on the insurance that they would do. We want to see how it's going to impact everybody. Okay, so we are still committing to assisting the district in that way and helping educate our employees on how to properly use it wisely so that they can save money and the district can save money and our, premium will go up.
Now, question is, if, for example, you're seeing that doctor, You can always ask the doctor, well, can you try to get on the Blue Cross Blue
Yes.
Shield preferred list? And, I don't know, doc, how easy it is or how hard it is.
Well, they review, you have to apply,
Yes.
and there's fees to apply, and you have to be accepted by the company. I mean, the
Wait.
packet is like, it's a contract.
Yeah, it is a contract, you would have
And
to
they can decide
negotiate a
to
contract.
accept you or not accept you.
But I think that, if there's providers in our area that are not in network, I think that we have a lot of power being a large employer. We do have 2,400 employees that they, wouldn't be seeing, so I'm not saying they will, but, it's a lot of employees to not see. They probably would lose a lot of business if they weren't in network, so they may be encouraged to apply and become members. Not saying that they're not, I'm just saying that if they weren't, we are the largest employer in the area, so.
My thing is, as a nurse, and as a family of nurses, my kids are nurses, my sisters are nurses, there are some doctors that I would never go see. And if the only option is one of those doctors, then I'm the one's gonna have a problem. Because if my doctor's not on network, and those doctors are not anybody that I would recommend even to my worst enemy,
Rachel, but there's a lot of other providers,
Yes.
and they will only allow people that are able to provide standard of care. So, as far as the insurer, whoever processes these claims, they're not gonna accept people that, are not practicing quality medicine.
And the other thing I'd
Now,
like
the
to point
bedside
out.
manner, well,
is-
that's something maybe the
Yes.
insurance hasn't caught on.
yeah.
But, I mean, you have to be credentialed to be accepted by some of these, insurance companies.
I understand that, but
Let's,
there's a lot
let's
of-
go
there's a
ahead and
lot-
proceed, we're
yeah.
gonna be here all night.
Yes,
You can
yes,
ask
we'll-
questions at the end.
There's a long list of providers, so, I mean, now.
The only thing that I'd like to point out is that United Healthcare is a very large insurance provider. So they do have a very extensive network here in the valley, and we'll go through all that, so if we can hold the questions towards the end, because probably your questions are gonna be answered throughout the presentation, and then we'll, take questions.
Okay, so this was kind of the summary snapshot of the responses that came back in. To break that same slide out just ever so slightly and say, well, if I was looking at any one of these numbers under the fiscal year 18-19, what are the components within those broken out? Going to the next slide, they're broken out by medical and pharmacy claims, broken out by administration, and broken out by stop loss. And so those are the three components that then make up the annual number. So the annual number remains unchanged. But what you can see is you can glean some light into what's happening inside some of these quotes. As an example, if we take the first line underneath the fiscal year 18, and let's see if I can get this little pointer to go without messing things up. If we look over here for Blue Cross Blue Shield, on that first line, you've got $18.8 million or so in medical and pharmacy claims, about $1,145,000 in administration, and about $2.2 million in stop loss premiums. That is what the universe is that adds up to the total of the $22.2 million. If you take a look at the EPO option, you can see that $726,000 in savings was predominantly driven on the claim side. It dropped the claims from $18.8 million down to almost $18.1. But if you take that one step further and go down one more, down to like a United Healthcare PPO plan, this is again all the same plan design. And under this particular scenario, on point of service plan that has in and out of network benefits, claims drop a whole bunch. You're like, well, what's going on there? Well, if you go from left to right, you can see administration is quite a bit more expensive. Pushing buttons and processing claims, you're like, well, boy, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But we're talking about $300,000 or so in the whole scheme of things. So just bear with me 1 second. Those are real dollars. You take a look at the stop loss premium. Holy cow, they're almost $800,000 more expensive. What's going on there? But then you look at the claims, and the claims are significantly less. What's happening behind all of this is under your current arrangement, you currently have 4 individuals that are lasered out of your plan. That's an industry term. What that basically means is if everyone in this room today was an employee of the district and that $300,000 specific deductible applied, They would pick 4 individuals, Ms. Cancino, myself, and 2 others, and they say, Jared, for you, your spec deductible is $1.5 million, which means the district is on the hook for every claim dollar up to $1.5 million, and then stop loss will go in. For Ms. Cancino on the second one, it's $1.3 million. District's on the hook up to 1.3, and then stop loss kicks in. You have 2 others, one at 900,000, one at 600,000. Those are real dollars being spent. $800,000 more expensive is a real expense. If you took a look at what the projection is next year on 2 individuals alone, those first 2 lasers, $1.5 million and $1.3 million, both are expected to be at $1 million apiece. And if you're on the hook for everything up to the $1.5 million, you're paying all those dollars up to $1 million. If United Healthcare is proposing to say, I'll set those limits at $300,000 for each of those. Basically, I'll take the other $700,000 of that $1 million on myself. So there's savings in claims of $1.4 million in exchange for almost $800,000 in premium on just 2 claimants, but they're also willing to eliminate those other 2 at $900,000 and $600,000 apiece. That's why the math gets a little squirrely, but it's real dollars. Today in your plan, you are paying for all those expenses up to, again, 1.5, 1.3, 900,000, and 600,000 a day. All the other quotes are the exact same. So again, it's not a goofy contract, it's not a bad contract, it's just the way it's written today. But one of the options for review is that United Healthcare does have that benefit of paying more premium to eliminate those.
Is that based on historical data that we have 4 employees that are at that level?
It's based on contract today. You have that today. And that is what was proposed for the renewal next year.
And just to make sure I'm understanding this, so stop loss doesn't kick in for those 4, is that what you're saying?
It does at those laser dollar amounts.
Oh, and why is that different for those 4 employees versus others?
Because they're saying, I've got somebody who, and I'll just make me up, if I happen to be somebody who's in-stage renal, who's running $30,000 a month in expenses for the given year, plus I've got other complications associated with my condition, so I'm gonna run $800,000 for the year. But I'm gonna be on the plan. There's no end in sight that I'm separating from the plan because I'm a dependent of an employee. And so they say, that's a known expense. Well, man, I'm gonna laser them out and say the district's on the hook up to 900,000.
Oh, that's what the company has decided
Yes,
to do.
that's
Blue Cross Blue Shield has
Now,
decided.
conversely, just as a point of negotiate or point of discussion, is that you can negotiate out the laser in your contract. You didn't for this last go around, but you could. But you can only imagine then the insurance company is going to come back and say, that's fine. Now I'm going to charge you a lot more in premium to eliminate the laser. So it's a trade-off or a balancing act that always occurs. I'm sorry, I think you had a question, sir.
Well, I think you answered it.
Okay.
The only other question that's come up for me is how often, because what I gathered from your first part was that we as a district have, we don't kind of go with one bundle from one third-party administrator. We kind of go, we could get 2 things from you, and then we go over here and get another thing from over here. How often do you see that? Or is that pretty typical, or are we actually, is that part of why we are seeing the cost so high, is because we aren't working, let's say for UHC has all the stop loss, they have their pharmacy all in a bundle, and we don't necessarily take all of that. Or I mean, Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're not necessarily
I
taking
understand the
that.
question. They have nothing to do with one another. They are completely separate. The fact that you have chopped them up into bits and pieces and other, that is normal, and keeping them bundled is normal. There's no right or wrong
Okay.
answer there.
You see them both ways.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a function of your contracts and your claims and who you contracted with that generated the claims on the backside.
Thank you.
Jared,
Yes, ma'am.
in the meeting on Wednesday, I think with the stop loss, because like I see numbers and I get glazed over and I'm very confused. But on the stop loss, just to go back to that, in our meeting, he explained it as basically you've got to spend a little to save a little. Like you spend that $800,000 with United Healthcare, which in the long run is going to save the district a huge chunk of money. I just think that that's like an easier way to look at it in case anybody's confused like I was originally on that part.
I will say that more often than not, see if this little pin will work. This is when we do an RFP response. Everyone focuses their time and energy on, well, when I spreadsheet them out, they were a lot more expensive on TPA and they were a lot more expensive on stop loss, so I guess that they're not very attractive. When the reality is, whenever we're really focusing our energy and it's, I mean, this is a, whoops, didn't do it. Anyway, you can see that basically it's in this claims bucket, this laser's better. This is the real tick of the tape is. Because if you think in terms of your plan, I didn't have a graph here, I figured you guys knew this intuitively, so I'll just say it, is that 80% of all your expenses go into some sort of claim dollar. It's going to medical or pharmacy. Of that, about 75%, this is a true stat for the DIC, I think it's 74% and change, 75% goes to medical, and then the other 25% goes to pharmacy. So when we're looking at analyzing contracts, I never want to dismiss that these are real dollars that are more expensive for administration, that we need to try to maximize and reduce and get those under control as best we can. But we always try to take a step back first before we dive in real deep to say, well, what am I getting in return for additional expense? Is that fair and reasonable? If the answer is yes, then you move forward. If the answer is no, then you don't.
What was that ratio you did on the claims to pharmacy?
So high level, 20% goes to administration and stop loss roughly, 80% go to claims. About 75% of all your claims go to medical, the other 25% goes to pharmacy. You spend almost 70 cents on the dollar for medical claims. The others go to pharmacy and the rest. So this was just a breakout. I think you got this in print. Flip back. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions about those. The bundles, you can only imagine. There's a gazillion iterations of how you get bundled this stuff. Do I want this pharmacy? Do I want that pharmacy? Is there a what if and what happens here? And da-da-da. We tried to narrow the field through extensive evaluation. We had some feedback from the insurance committee as well to try to say what would be reasonable to digest. Just realize these are not set in stone, but these are the ones that kind of feel like they're a good fit for understanding how things get bundled up and what the cost implications might be. So bundle number one is taking a look at Blue Cross Blue Shield as the incumbent. It's always easier, maybe I should say at a high level, it's always easier to stay put with who you have if they're doing a good job. And I don't think anybody said that Blue Cross is not doing a good job. No question. And I don't think anybody raised their hand and said American Healthcare on the pharmacy is doing a bad job, so on and so forth. So that was never the solve. The solve was, can we get into the next plan year and can we overcome this $5 million shortfall that we have in funding versus expense? What might that look like if we just stay put? That was that's what I'm about to go through. The next would be, if we were to make a change, is it additional burden to the district or the employees in the form of plan design, or is it less? And I think what you'll see in the second bundle is it lessens some of the burden to the employees in the form of plan design. But let's walk through the first one first. So this was taking a look at the incumbent Blue Cross. You've got stop loss with the BCS, currently has the lasers in it, as I mentioned before. The employer, so I'll just tell you, you'll see here that there's this employer subsidy of $2 million. The reason it exists is because when we ran the model without any additional funding from the district, I couldn't modify the plan design and make it bad enough to cover the cost of $5 million. And then I turned around and said, well, what if I just cranked up the deductions and payroll from the employees? I couldn't raise them high enough within reason, right? And then the combination of the two was just not good. And so with lots of diligence and work with Ms. Cancino, she was able to say, look, if we were as a district able to come up with $2 million to help alleviate some of that burden, what then might it look like? So that's where the $2 million comes from. And then we take a look at employee contributions. It'll vary by plan, but we'll get to that in just a moment. The target, I think this is important, is balanced budget. You're currently out of balance now. You'd be out of balance next year if you did nothing. The whole idea, what you will see here is everything tries to solve for zero. Meaning I got expenses, after I take in everything else, I'm trying to get to zero. So, plan design. This is one option. You can always tweak and modify co-pays a little bit. You can tweak and modify deductibles a little bit, but just to give you some relativity. What we came up with and what we talked to the insurance committee is, if you went from a 3-tier plan design, a medium, high, and a premium plan, and across the bottom, second up from the bottom, you'll see where it says active enrollment percent. We showed the numbers earlier, but basically you have about 8 people total on the premium plan, and then obviously most on the medium plan and the rest on the high plan, about 12, almost 13% on the high plan. We said if we eliminated that premium plan impacting 8 employees, they would probably migrate more likely than not to the high plan. And inside of that, we would have to increase the deductibles on each plan, so you can see everything highlighted in red is what's changing. So deductibles go up from $750 to $1,500 on the medium plan, from $450 to $1,000 on the high plan. You can see out-of-pockets move upward as well. Co-pays now have a differential in them, so not only are they higher, but they're spread. So going to a primary care physician is less expensive than a specialist. That cost more aligns with the cost of going to a specialist versus a primary care physician. But again, for illustration, your emergency room copay was too low at $100. I set it at $300, which is somewhat standard. We're seeing a lot of employers going to $500 on a copay. So we just set it at $300. And then we front-loaded the deductible, because it does have some value. If you said, before all my pharmacy benefits get paid, if I had a deductible of some dollar amount before I got into the copay game, what might that look like? And in here, we just modeled out a $50 copay. And again, that's just saying, I pay the first $50 100%. Once I hit $50, it goes straight back into the copay plan as you see it before. And all of that generates savings or cost reductions inside the plan. If you go to the next page, which is the EPO bundle, with a $2 million subsidy, with the plan design that's illustrated on the slide before, slide 21, I was just there, and the district maintains its current funding status at $505 per employee per month, and we eliminated the out-of-network benefit. So this is in-network, 2 plan designs, $2 million subsidy. What you'll see here is the top third of this is the current fiscal year 17-18 monthly employee payroll deductions. So if you're getting them per paycheck, obviously those numbers will be different, but on a monthly basis. The middle third shows what the rates would go up to. So that's 2018-19. And the bottom third represents the change. So just pointing out one is if you're on the medium plan employee only today at $15 per employee per month, it would go up to $25 per employee per month. In the next fiscal year, the change would be an increase of $10 per employee per month, is how to read that chart. Okay?
So the highest gain would be between the family plan, the employee and family.
So if you were on the high family plan, as an example, $538.29, it would go up to $642.90, or an increase of $104.61. That is correct. Okay. So you see what that one kind of looks and smells like. Let me show you the second bundle, and then I'll pause, and then we can answer a whole bunch of questions about both of them if that helps. And just realize what we also did as well is realize that we were trying to make the choice of what all would it take for us to stay with Blue Cross, absent of them sharpening pencils with best and final offers and maybe reducing admin rates a little bit, or whatever they could do last minute. What would it cost to stay put? It solved for that. And this was kind of the balancing act of what we felt was kind of the happiest medium, if you will. Then we said, how do I then target the exact same payroll deductions for employees, and what might that look like in plan design? And that's what the second bundle illustrates. And that is basically taking a look at United Healthcare using their pharmacy, which is Optum RX. You've got the, obviously, accessing the provider network, stop losses with UHC. The subsidy from the district actually goes down to $1.72 million, not $2 million. We'll come back to that. And once again, we're solving for what balances the budget next year. So you'll see here, these are the proposed plan design changes highlighted in red. There's not any. The note is that note at the very top. Eliminate out-of-network benefits and the premium plan. Those are the changes. So we were trying to say, how can I keep the integrity of the in-network benefit design as close as current today? And then what would that look like? So this is what the plan design is with no change to in-network benefits. Again, elimination of out-of-network and the premium plan. The district would have to subsidize about $1.7 million, not $2 million in funding. And you'll note, if you took a picture of the last one, I know some of you got cameras out, the bottom third, when you're looking at the change, it all kind of flows the same. It's the exact same as what I showed on Blue Cross. Taking in the exact same amount of increase in funding that is needed for the employees, irregardless of plan. So the trade-offs, again, everything's almost a balancing act, is can I stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield? Am I willing to make some reasonable plan design changes? And I don't think having a $1,500 and a $1,000 deductible plan is unreasonable or terrible. I think it's a good, solid plan design. Compared to today, it's dramatically different, I get that. But it's not terribly bad, and you could increase employee funding and the district would help pick up some of the shortfall. Alternatively, I could keep a much lower deductible and copay structure like I have today, make some modification to that out-of-network benefit plan, and yes, I do have to contribute more to keep what I have, but that's kind of, those are the two bundles, if you will, that we put together and what we presented to the insurance committee. And I know I'll open it up to questions from the board, but anything else that I missed in that was presented in the meeting the other day, or is there any points?
I just want to say that also the contribution, the premium are pre-taxes, right? So
That is correct.
So it's $100. It's not, you're not going to see $100 come off your paycheck. If it's a $100 increase, it's maybe like 70 or 80, depends whether
Depending on your tax rate.
your tax. Yes.
That's
So
right.
I just want to say that. Whereas if we increase deductible, that's really coming out of your paycheck. I mean, in other words, coming from exactly that amount.
You got it.
I have a question on the co-payments when you go to the doctor though, to see a doctor. Worst case scenario, an employee's gonna pay $30 or $25.
Oh, yeah, let me go back to that, yeah.
But, let me ask you another question is that part of their deductible or copay?
All expenses accrue to your out-of-pocket expense,
Right.
not your deductible, to your out-of-pocket.
If I go to a doctor for the very first time and it's $25, that's only, I have to pay the $25 because that's part of my copay?
That's right,
Copay
it's
is
what,
copay.
yeah, it's what they call a first dollar benefit. It says, I don't have to satisfy my deductible first.
Okay, good.
I can pay $25
That's
on the
it.
very first visit.
Yeah, because I know that TRS, and I followed the TRS, and I know that they just switched, they went, if I go to a doctor and Dr. Mary charges me $50, I've got to pay $50 to pay until I reach $1,500.
Yeah.
And then, so now I think twice about, do I really want to go see the doctor today? Because I've got to pay
So full
money
visit.
instead of
Yes.
$25. And I'll be honest, that happened to be, I ended up in the hospital, and it cost the
Yes.
insurance company much more money.
Yes, so those plans, I know for, like, the TRS Active Care has their very base plan. I believe their deductible actually went up to 2,750, I believe, for this year. And that is their high deductible plan. What it does really is for catastrophic illnesses. That's not for you to go to the doctor and, it doesn't have co-pays. What it does is that once you pay the $2,750 out of pocket, then the plan will start covering 80% and you will be responsible for the 20. None of the plans that we are offering here are designed that way. These, you have your deductible for your lab work, x-rays, all those, exams that you need to do, that goes towards your deductible, but in addition, it has co-pays. So you don't have to meet the 450 or the 750, whichever the case may be, in order for that to kick in. When you go to the doctor, you still will pay your $25 as you have been, and that's, both plans have the same proposal, so you don't have to worry about meeting that
That's
amount.
right. That was one of the things that I was
It's not-
concerned about.
it's
the
TRS.
employees.
Huh?
It's not like the
It
TRS.
is not like the TRS, that one is called, I believe it's TRS Active Care 1 HD, high deductible. It really is, I would, I hate to say this, but it's maybe for a younger person that has no health problems, and they're okay, they usually don't go to the doctor, maybe a physical once a year, whatever you save in premiums, that's fine, I'll pay that one-time expense, $100 off his visit, and they're okay with that. So it is really for a catastrophic illness, like a cancer, a heart attack, something that will financially ruin you if it happens. So those are what those are designed for, or if you're okay paying the whole deductible up front.
But I think the TRS, they cover yearly physical.
Yes, they do have a
100%.
wellness plan, yes, at 100%, that is correct, yes.
Okay, I'm looking at the both plans at the same time, which is something that is not up there. So it's kind of hard for people out there in the audience to compare one to the other.
Okay.
So what I'm looking at here is the proposed plan for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Uh-huh.
You have a $1,500 deductible, correct?
Yeah, and actually what I was gonna just point out, the slide that I have up, Page 21. If you look at the current plan design, which is the
Right here.
left-hand side of the three plans,
Yeah.
that's exactly what's proposed under the United Healthcare plan, absent of the premium column. So if you want to just look side by side on this slide, you can see under the medium plan, which is in kind of gray, about 80% of the way over, which says $1,500 on the deductible. You can compare that to the current $750 on this slide.
Okay, so basically what you're showing us on the United Healthcare is what they have now. So in other words, their deductible is $750. That's what it would be this year.
That is correct. It's
Whereas,
what it is.
whereas if they go with Blue Cross Blue Shield, it would
The-
be $1,500.
Correct, so if you look there at the medium plan, in the purple shaded columns, and then you have the proposed design in the gray. So if you look at the medium, the proposal to keep the rates the same as the United Healthcare, it's a $750 deductible that we have now, we would be increasing it to $1,500. And the maximum out of pocket from $3,250 to $6,000. And you see the same on the high plan. We are also proposing eliminating the premium plan. That's why you don't see that third column on the gray boxes. The other changes are the co-pays. There are increases of $30 to $60 so we would be adding, right now what we don't have is that specialist copay. So we would be adding a specialist copay. That would be $60 on the medium and $50 on the high. And the ER.
Then you have the ER.
This is, and then the ER copay, and this is if we were to stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay, so all the things that are going up basically are by staying with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
All of that in addition to the cost, to the employee cost, that it's the same with both proposals.
Okay, come on, Steve. You can proceed.
We have a question, we got a question in the back.
Here's really quick, several questions.
Sure.
Number one, does United Healthcare work with the West Echo Hospital?
No.
And number two, okay, do you have the numbers of the people that prefer going to West Echo, the cost analysis on going to West Echo and going to McAllen, and also emergency and ambulances? So how much would it increase or help the district? Do you have those numbers?
We do have that in another slide, but I will say that no, at this point, United Healthcare does not have MAP. What is being considered, and it's already part of the price that you see here, is that we are willing to, or United Healthcare is willing to contract with NAP at an additional cost of $200,000 to the district. So it's already considered there. So we would, in essence, they would be in network, even though they are not with United, but they have agreed to process the claims for NAP for an additional
That would
$200,000.
increase 1.7 to almost $2 million.
No, it's already included. It's already included. It's already included in all the numbers we've given you. With its NAP is included.
But the district would have to go and negotiate that with them, correct?
Correct.
I'm
Correct.
gonna say something because of what you just said.
Yes.
Your minds are made up already. You're going with United.
Mm.
And I have not had any, this is the first for me. I have not had
There was-
anything to do with insurance, because you just said,
There was,
we are going with United.
no, I said if we were going with United.
No, you said we.
Ma'am, there was an insurance committee meeting and they voted on this already. They voted on this, so we are bringing this for proposal. So we did look because we knew that NAP is the closest hospital. So we did take the steps into looking into what it would be the cost of NAP being added, and it is an additional $200,000 cost. There was a committee meeting with the insurance committee on Friday. The committee members are here to attest to that, and this was put for vote with them. So the recommendation would be what the committee is recommending. So yes, you are correct. We did review it.
I'd like to add that NAP is right now struggling. A lot of the floors have closed and they're combining. We don't have a lot of specialists that go there. A lot of our patients end up being transferred out. So it's just FYI.
So the other thing that we could do is we could leave out NAP out, not negotiate, not pay the $200,000, apply that to the employee premium and bring down the cost of the employee if we apply those additional $200,000 to them. So that would be the option if we were to leave out NAP.
So
To
which
give-
hospitals are covered under United Healthcare?
All the ones that you see there on the slide, the only one from Blue Cross and Blue Shield, you see the fourth and fifth columns there. You have UHC, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the only hospital not covered is SNAP, everything else, they both cover.
Is there anybody here from the insurance committee? You were there for the hearing, and you all voted for one or the other. I'm gonna ask you, which one did you guys vote for?
I personally voted for the United Healthcare with the EPO, eliminating the out-of-network benefits. And the reason for that is because me, as a professional, as a single woman, I have no husband, no anybody else to depend on financially. It's just me. If you stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield and you up my deductible and you up my out-of-pocket expense, if I have anything that happens to me, I can't afford it. As a professional, when I think about my support staff, when I think about my custodians, when I think about my TAs, if I can't do it, by God, they can't. And so you need to understand that, yes, it's, somebody somewhere along the way is gonna be upset with the decision that was made. They may have to change doctors. But changing doctors is a much better option than financial ruin for a family because of the deductibles, the copays, and all of that going up. The other thing that you also need to know is that with insurance, once your deductibles go up, once your out-of-pocket expenses go up, and once your copays go up, next year they're not gonna go down. That is industry standard. That is consistent with what happens. Once those things go up, they're not gonna go back down. So I could not in good conscience vote for that financial burden, not just for myself, but for everybody in this district. So if somebody gets upset about something, like, I'm sorry, but you have to understand that we have to look at the whole thing, and it's not just about we're self-funded. That means that we as employees fund our insurance. It's not the district that does it, it's us. So it's a decision for us and for the employees. And that's what you have to understand, and it's not easy. We spent 5 hours there talking about everything, coming up with the different scenarios. And you need to know that every person in that room was very conflicted on what do we do, how do we do this, how do we do this in the best interest of all of the employees. And that's what, I can only speak for myself, but I know the caliber of the people that were in the room with me. I know how hard Angie's worked on this. Mr. Wills, I commend you for what you did because you explained everything in such an understandable way where it wasn't like, I have no idea what to do. So I appreciate that, but that's why I did what I did, Coach.
Thank you. There's somebody in the back. Are you a member of the committee as well?
Yes,
Okay.
I think ultimately, being part of the committee, I did go back to my campus, I did speak to them, and realistically, and I think for most of us, I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what she said, it really was a no-win. It really was. I'm going back to my campus, yes, there was a lot of individuals who they themselves said, I'll take the hit, because of medical reasons, some were willing, but of course that's not all. And that was one of the things that I personally expressed to my campus, was we're looking holistically, and it's very easy to look individually. And yes, you may be willing to take that hit, but I can't speak for everybody else in the district. So personally, I know that when we talked about it, spoke about it, it really did feel like a no-win situation. Yes, our premiums are gonna go up regardless, but when you take that into account of cut of days, no salaries, in essence, a loss of income for those individuals, and plus the $1,500 deductible, or $6,000 out of pocket, there was no win. As many as they would love to stay with Blue Cross, because we have had a horrible experience getting out of Blue Cross, and that was one of the things that was mentioned as soon as the conversation became, do we consider this provider? That was the forefront of our minds, the horrible experience that we had with ADA. And so that was the forefront, and for many people, do we wanna experience that? And what's gonna be the hit that we're gonna take if we're not satisfied with UHC? We knew that, but at the end of the day, it did come to, okay, realistically, looking at everybody involved, it's no win. My personal take on it, there's not a really big win situation here, because we either keep the premiums that is, because they are the same on Blue Cross or UHC, we keep it for this year, we're pretty much told we might have to increase premiums again, possibly, we don't know. But then we take the hit this year, we keep the same providers, we're still gonna lose out of network. I mean, there really is a no-win situation here, honestly.
Did you guys, by any chance happen?
I asked, I'm sorry, good.
Did y'all happen to do a comparison to our neighboring districts to see, what is employee at Westaco, at Hidalgo, and what do they pay?
Someone at the meeting did say that both Brownsville and PSJ use United Healthcare.
Yes, we have that information on.
It's on it, okay.
You know, the question that I asked was, who did the committee select?
The United Healthcare.
Yeah, if you take a look at, there we go. I think there was a question about other school, or just other public entities down in the valley. There's a list that's in your handout of other United Healthcare customers that were there. There's another question, I was gonna show a few things.
Comparison.
Oh, yeah, you wanna show that, or no?
So we have, you can see there's 4 school districts. You have Mercedes ISD, PSJA, San Benito, and Bronzeville. Bronzeville is the largest school district in our area with 9,000 employees, and they've been with United Healthcare for 4 years. And PSJA, it's a close second there with 7,000 employees. And they've been there with United 1 year. And these are just public entities. There's other businesses, companies that are members of United Healthcare. It is one of the largest, if not the largest, health insurance in the nation. It does have a very extensive network as well. And one of the slides, and are we good with comparing the two bundles?
Well, the question that I was asking was, you're listing all the school districts that are here, but what is an employee at PSJ paying compared to what?
We did compare to Westaco. That we did, if you wanna see that comparison. But they don't have United Healthcare. We just have a comparison so that you see the premium portion. And how it seems, even though their plan is at $9 and we're at $15, it seems that they're lower. If you take the time to look at the rest of the levels of the tiers in the plan, you'll see that the funding we fund a lot more than they actually do. So we do have that slide prepared if you'd like to, for us to review it.
Well, the one thing I was gonna note, when you're comparing to it doesn't matter if you're public or private, is that, you always wanna look at plan design, does plan design cover, and then you wanna look at contributions, what's set by the employer versus the employees. But what you don't see more readily than not is, like here, ISD, you're subsidizing almost $3.5 million that don't show up in the rates that you see in that rate sheet. So when you're comparing side by side, the district's funding, not only it's 85% plus the $3.5 million today, going to grow into something more in the future unless we do something different. And so,
I was asked a question by an employee, and they said, look, no raise. I can go to PSJ, or I can go to Hoya, or I can go somewhere else and get paid a little bit more, $200, $300, or $400 more a month. But what is the difference between their insurance premiums and our insurance premiums? That's what I want to know, is how is it going to impact the student and the employee on a personal basis?
But you can't just look at the premiums, because if you do that, you're not taking into account plan design, which is where, sorry, Mr. Ritter, which is where you're talking about co-pays, you're talking about deductibles and all of that stuff. So you can't just look at the cost to the employee. Like, there's a whole lot more that goes into it.
I know that we have to line is one thing, but, you know, at the end of the day, employee A is gonna look at, if I go to La Jolla to work, is I'm gonna be making $5,000 a month, where if I stay here in Donna, I'm gonna be making $4,700 a month.
But the gas they're
And
gonna
then
spend
after
is
that,
gonna
I've
be
gotta
more.
pay my insurance premium here, $10, or, $10, $15, I think is the change, versus the employee in La Jolla who's gonna have to pay $45, so.
Right, now they're gonna spend a lot more in gas.
So I think what we have to do, we
Let's
just
get
have
back on
to,
task. Okay,
yeah.
let's move forward.
we just have to write our ship right now and make sure we're doing what we need to do to get where we need to be as a school district. And we have to make those decisions, and then employees will take that information and have to make hard choices for themselves, and they should, you know, go to the place that feels the best for them.
My husband works here. We don't have the insurance. We don't need it. So, yeah, thankfully, we don't have to have this insurance, which would put us way over paying for this. Now, if he worked for another district, and because we've had the issue, he was in the military, I had private insurance. Well, guess what? My insurance would cover first and then his. Now, his was a lot better paying insurance than mine, but because of the way the insurance runs, mine had to cover. So I had to drop mine and stay with his, which is probably what's gonna happen with a lot of employees. If the other spouse works with another district and theirs is better, guess what? They're dropping your insurance and they're going somewhere else. And that's the plain fact. Because if I'm gonna be paying insurance here and his is better, I'll go over there.
You see, what's happening now is exactly the opposite. You're getting people
Yes.
that are working in other districts, and we're picking up the load for them.
Yes.
Correct.
Because you're only paying like, you know, a real small amount, so they're coming and jumping and piggybacking off of here.
So
We're
when we-
carrying the burden of them.
Correct, so what we did notice was, and we had it at the last workshop that we did for health insurance, a comparison, and the only one that we have there for, we had several, we had Harlingen, and we had a West Laco, and I can't remember the third one. But what you noticed was, okay, yes, we may be equal or maybe a little higher on the employee only by like $6 or so, but all the other levels were way higher than what we,
To pay for their family.
yes,
it's
the
very-
family, the
it's not
employee spouse
affordable.
is way higher in the other school districts than what we charge right now.
I'm not
Most of
talking
the-
school districts, I'm talking private entities, because I can tell you that DHR gives a lot better insurance than here.
But you have to work for DHR.
Yes, yes.
And you have to,
Yes, but-
there are restrictions.
I can't worry about
Right.
that, all I have is.
Yes, but
is this.
again, they have very restricted, you have to do everything there. You know, you have to use their doctors, et cetera. So I think we need to get back on track, because we still have a meeting after this.
Okay, this is, the conclusion of the workshop. This is,
I was just saying.
Real quick, I'm sorry, Coach.
Yes, sir.
If you give me a couple of seconds, we have a little bit longer. Ms. Cancino, I understand that we've done very, very good and, in the new proposal, but anybody that's a numbers man is already 10 years down the line, all right? So when we look at this, savings, and, when we're saving this money, Ms. Cancino, this has come to you for a little while, is I know you've mentioned in the past that we can no longer, or the district cannot contribute the 505 forever.
The 505 are remaining.
I know that we're doing that now.
Yes.
But where you have mentioned you can't do that forever.
No, not the 505, the subsidy.
But the 505, you're willing to contribute the district?
Yes, sir.
No, and without going?
I can't guarantee anything, but it's never been in anything that I talked about or proposed, reducing the actual benefit, no. What we are talking about is in the future, where we wanna go is to make a plan where it breaks even at the very least, and we start building a reserve. So where the school district doesn't have to be putting out those $2 million. Now, am I saying, is that something that I'm just gonna put in the bank and say, no, we would like to give it to you back in other ways, like employee raises. You know, we have this money tied up in other areas that if we do a plan redesign, do all these things, we may be able to be more competitive, pay-wise with other school districts. So the goal is to be there. It is not the intent of us to just save all this money and put it in our pockets. What you also need to realize, and as I mentioned in previous board meetings, budget workshops, is that right now we have a very healthy fund balance. We ended the year with $48 million in the general fund. But we are anticipating having a deficit this year. We are anticipating going below $44 million this year because of the Todd project. So we're already gonna take a hit there. And then we are losing $6 million in funding for next year. So it's not just looking at health insurance, it's looking at the whole district holistically, like she said, as a whole, and what is the best decision for the school district financially. Not immediately, but in future years also. So I think this is a first good step to get a hold of our health insurance fund and start making strides into righting this ship, and then hopefully build a reserve and not affect you as much. I think, yes, the premiums are gonna go up. I know in some areas are more significant than others. I think the bulk of our employees are employee only, and they'll see a $10 increase. And I know, that I'm aware about the days, the reducing days and everything, but there's only so much money around that we can work with. So we're trying to do the best we can and putting a plan in place for future years as well. So we are looking 10 years ahead or 5 years, but immediately this is what we can do for next year. Even though we have the $6 million deficit, loss in revenue for next year, we are still in discussing with administration, discussing with our conservator, the board. We came to a consensus that the district will still be willing to put $2 million for next year.
Okay, and on that note,
Yes.
really quick.
Yes.
Because you made a really good point at the insurance meeting. So the district, puts in 505.
Right.
Right, okay? So how much did y'all have to subsidize this past year?
3.7.
And so if you divide that among the 2,400 employees, is that,
I don't have.
that's on top of
It
the.
was close to like $600.
That's on top of the 505.
Correct.
Yes.
So
Correct.
even though we're seeing no raise, we actually are getting a raise because they're helping us out with that. It's our insurance really didn't go that high. And so next year, it's what, $2 million?
Yes.
Again, so people when they think about compensation, when they're talking about their salary, they don't think about the benefits as well. And so they're not seeing that for years. How long has the district been bailing us out? So
It's been years, yes.
Okay, so there it is, 4 years. 4 years, we got raises 2 years ago, and prior to that, but on top of that, we also got that money. And so it's not just the 505 that they're giving us, it's also all this other stuff that we can see that is a raise, but we're not getting it in our paycheck, we're getting it in our insurance. And people don't understand that.
And that's what, I just want to finish, I was,
Go ahead.
right, the 505, I just want to make sure we're on the 505, that's what I went back to our staff.
Yes.
Somos mexicanos, somos raza. They're paying 85%, but I still want her to pay the other 15% we want 100%. And that's what I was coming to, that if the district and the board continues to contribute that 505, employees need to understand, you're paying 85% of the employee's costs, right?
Yes.
My burden is to take on my family, that's my responsibility. So I commend the board and Ms. Garcia, as long as we can continue that 505, that's 85%, guys. We're paying 15% for our insurance. And that's how I went back and explained it to the staff that I work with.
That's
was
the way
that,
we went.
guys, you're paying 15%, you want them to pay 100. It's not gonna happen. But 85%, I commend, and that's positive on the board and on the cabinet. I think we're heading in the right direction. But I think that's how people just really need to see it. You're contributing 85%.
That's exactly how we explained it to Run, and they were all okay.
Got one more question.
Yes, sir.
I remember when we did the request for quotes on this thing, there was a section in there that, I don't know whether it was part of your template, but you had put on there that there was, Honest RX company was gonna be the pharmaceutical, and they were gonna get so much money up front and then so much per prescription. Was that a typo on your part, or is there an Honest RX company out there that's gonna be getting some of our money, and why does that have to happen?
So inside of the PBM pharmacy marketplace,
Right.
there are massive dollars that are being held onto, for lack of a better term, by the PBM companies. That market changes dramatically. Rebate dollars, where maybe 5-6 years ago, if you had $7 or $8 per employee per month in rebate dollars, that seemed like a lot. Those numbers are in the hundreds of dollars per employee per month in rebate dollars, per script, etc. If you're not, and the second that you analyze your contract and think that you have it all squared away and you have the right provisions in place, they turn around and change the definition of what a rebate is into educational dollars. So where I'm paying the district today rebate dollars, tomorrow they're educational dollars. I don't have to pay those to you. So you need somebody at a very granular level analyzing those contracts, and about every 6 months that game changes. And so Holmes Murphy, as part of our proposal to the district initially, was to say, like, third-party firm, we get paid nothing. But basically, they will come in and analyze your contract, and they get paid for by the insurance company. And whenever they negotiate the financial terms and all that goofy language, here's an example. I get paid a rebate dollar for a retail drug. 30 days, I'll say it differently. For 30 days, I get a rebate dollar that comes back to you, the district. When it flips to 90 days, I get nothing. Well, wait a minute, how that makes sense? I should get 3 times because it's 90 days. I went from 30 days to 90 days, I should get, all that fine print is really important. And so all we said is, we think it's important for the district to have something like an Honest Rx. It's paid for by the pharmacy vendors, and then they build into the rates, but it's paid for by them, trust me. And what they do is, on your behalf, is they negotiate the terms. Holmes Murphy gets nothing for it. You don't want it on, they can turn it off. No skin off our nose. It's just a value add that we throw in there. And yes, dollars will go to a third party, but they are really making sure that the fine print in your contract is appropriate.
Because I don't remember ever having voted or selected that Honest Rx company. That wasn't even up for consideration or a board vote.
I would push that back to the district for your legal, your counsel, how you guys look at things. It was in our proposal, we turn it on for our customers because, again, we make nothing on it. It doesn't impact Holmes Murphy's bottom line one bit. But we think that having somebody who's in the game every day, twice on Sunday, vetting out the contracts to make sure that they're the best for our customers, they are one of many. There's like half a dozen out there that do a great job, and I could rattle them off, but I won't bore you with that. If the district doesn't want to mess with it because you think that there's any kind of issues there, we'll turn it off now.
I mean, that's not the way I look at it, I did the math, and I think it was like a $350,000 hit that we're taking on that.
I don't think it's that high, but I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yeah.
It's a similar situation with the stop loss. You spend money to save money. So by them looking at the contract more closely, where we don't have the expertise to look at something like that, we would be able to save money by having that service. But like you mentioned, it can be turned off. But that's not something that we
But who's
want.
gonna look at the contract?
Exactly, so.
They'll change it
Correct.
knowing that you're not looking at it, and then you get stuck.
So,
I
are you
mean,
saying it's a good thing to have it?
well, I mean, somebody has to look at it.
Here's the deal. When you hire a consulting firm like a Holmes Murphy, we have the ability to analyze pharmacy contracts, no question.
Right.
And 10 years ago, they were pretty simple, straightforward. Average wholesale price minus 15%, do the math, how many scripts are against that, and away you go. The problem is that it became such big business and so many dollars running through it that everybody got really creative in their contracts. So much so that it's hard for us, we do medical, dental, vision, life, disability, we do a lot of things. So you have to have that high tuned degree of specialization. Every brokerage consulting firm of size has pharmacy specialization strategy. One of ours happens to be, hey, deploy an Honest Rx as a solution. And every scenario, they've always been able to identify, let's change the contractual provisions to get more dollars coming back to the district, and they've always paid for themselves. And the subtlety in all their arrangement is they don't get paid unless they save you money. So there's a guarantee that you don't pay anything unless you receive $12 PM in savings. It's technicality in the contract, but the whole point is they're the only company out there that guarantees savings before they get paid. And that's the reason why we kind of like them. But after that, you can choose it.
Now, the other question is, because I understand, like you just said, you get so much at 30 days, but if you don't submit a claim for that 30 days, in 60 days, it's gone. So are we really, are we really making money or are we losing money?
In your current contract, what we did is we analyzed all your contracts based upon, you're currently with American Healthcare, right? We just said, what is the new proposal look like? And it actually improved. So we just said, hey, you're spending this much with American Healthcare today, tomorrow it'll be something less because they sharpened their pencils and had a better quote on the table. We did the same thing across the board, assuming that you had optimal terms in your contract.
I don't ever remember seeing anything as a journal entry that we're getting a refund from insurance companies, do we, Andy?
Well, you don't get a refund.
We get rebates from the pharmacy.
That's right.
Yes, we get rebates.
You do.
Yes.
Are they sizable?
I mean, they're not significant, but they're also not like 1,000, 5,000. We've gotten some about 45,000, about 60,000. It varies.
I'll say, I'm gonna maybe answer your question. So you're not seeing sizable dollars in pharmacy rebates that are, and they come about once, how often are you booking those, Angie?
Well, we were getting them, we were receiving them about every 2 months. With American Healthcare, we're seeing them once a year. It's a lot slower.
Anyway, it's a lot. Bottom line is about once a quarter you see some monies that show up. The district, if we just look at any pharmacy contract for any customer of similar size, you're only receiving a fraction of the rebate dollars that you should be receiving. That's why we say somebody like an Honest Rx needs to get in there and figure out how to straighten the contract out. This has nothing to do with the co-pays. This has nothing to do with, is my drug on the formulary list, yes or no? Is it at a higher or lower? That is separate. This is truly just the behind the scenes. I'm acquiring the drug of 20 milligrams of this drug for a unit cost that's less than what I'm paying today. It's that kind of.
Yeah, that's what my concern is, it's behind the scene. You know, is this agent making this amount of money and is that money that the district could be saving? Because right now the district needs to save every penny that we can.
So, okay, so the district can do what they want. In a nutshell, I use stop loss as probably a decent example. You would potentially, if the board chose to go with United Healthcare and their stop loss contract, you would pay $800,000 more for a stop loss premium. That makes no sense unless I turned around and said, and you will save $1.8 million in claims. You will net $1 million to the good in that contract. The last part changes the first part dramatically.
Right.
Same thing is true in Honest Rx. You would spend dollars to an Honest Rx, but there would be but here's what you get in return. And if that return isn't there, the first part never happens. You don't pay anything.
So you don't have any figures, hard figures to give us?
We baked them into the math. I don't have it up, but I can absolutely get those to you.
That's the problem, that they're baked into the deal, and, I mean, we don't.
But that's what
But I
I'm
say
saying,
baked in.
sir.
Do you say if you
It's
don't
already
get
taking
the
into
rebate,
account,
you
it's not an additional
get
cost.
The thing is, these contracts and these pharmacy, they change frequently. And it's just a.
It changed daily.
You know, and keeping up with them, it's.
But when a new drug comes off of patent protection, and all of a sudden becomes generic, do you want to wait 6 months to go ahead and have that available at the lower, or you want that implemented immediately? Currently today, American Healthcare, they're doing that for you, but at some level of frequency. And I'm not saying that wouldn't happen with anybody else. It's just a higher tuned version of analyzing pharmacy. So I always say this in public forum and in public entities in general. If there's ever a question about, I don't want to spend $1 to save $4, and that in and of itself, and we can show you how the math works, so it's not just baked in and hidden behind the scenes. There's not hands in the cookie jar, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
But if you can't get to that level, then just turn it off, because it's easier to have sleep insurance and say it's not there. The district will run the numbers as without that in there, and then we don't have to worry about that piece of it.
But then in the long run, we might be spending a lot more.
But potentially, I mean, don't get me wrong. We'll be looking for all the other things. It's all that devil in the detail that gets you. But yeah.
So the bundle, the option 2, is United Healthcare. The co-pays and the deductibles would stay the same.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
The only change on the United is the elimination of the element benefit. Everything else stays the same.
And then the payroll deduction goes up
Yes.
slightly.
They do on both, they go up the same amount.
Okay.
Okay, I think this is it, and I think this concludes the workshop for insurance. So now we're gonna go on to the special board meeting. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. And please join us, we'll pledge allegiance, moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And the superintendent's report, we have the conservator quarterly report.
Our president, all members, Mr. Ramirez, our conservator, has submitted a quarterly report to TEA, and she's here to share with us her notes. I think she will, we want to make sure that everybody knows this quarterly report is from, or until June, end of June.
Well, actually, it's from January till June. It should have been a quarterly report, but because TEA has implemented a new program that at the time they said, we're gonna just keep adding to it and make it a whole year. But since then, they've changed their mind and it's changing a little bit. This was like the pilot. I was one of the ones that piloted it because I said, if I'm gonna implement this, I better know what's going on. And so they devised this, and if you'll notice, you don't even have a legend to tell you what the colors mean in this. And I'm gonna tell you what those mean, but basically what they've done is, now the report is split, it's very different than what you were getting in the past. It's now split into two sections. You have the action plan and the status report. And under the action plan, it addresses 5 areas that you need to be aware of. Be it academic accountability, which I believe Dr. Aziz is going to go into that in a few minutes and cover that. Financial accountability, governance, statutory compliance, and other general activities. And what they're doing is when a person gets put into a district, you have targeted areas that you're supposed to work at. In fact, you have academic accountability right now that doesn't require my assistance. But should it change, I would have to get into that area because as long as you make a C or above, you're okay. So that section was collapsed, so I don't report on it. But then there's the financial accountability. On that one, I came into the district as a conservator because of the forensic audit, and it addressed a lot of the issues having to do with finance. And what I'm going to cover now is the colors and what they mean. Because the other one, the update to this, that will now be quarterly, actually spells out what the colors are. The blue means that it's been completed. Green means that you're on track. The yellow means that you're slightly off track. And the red means that you are off track. And then the gray means that you have not started. Then what we have is activities throughout each of these different areas. And as the activities are turning to blue, you'll be getting more points. And what TA staff does, they review all of this quarterly. And they sit with the people that have to do with academic accountability, financial and so forth, and they make a determination every quarter. Do we continue with a conservator there, or do we pull them out? And you should be getting a letter, I don't know if you've already received it or not, that says, no, we're gonna continue with a conservator there, and it's usually addressed to your superintendent and to the Region 1 Education Service Center, and I get a copy of it, and it lets you know whether I'm going to continue or not. But now they have established criteria within each section where it says the exit criteria. Like in financial accountability, it has to be a C or higher for me to exit that. Which, for that to happen, probably not gonna happen until next year around this time, because you're gonna have to, in financial accountability has to do with the audit report, and you'll be getting school first around this time next year. But then if there's other things in there that still need to be addressed, I'll still stay in here for that section. And the other one that you would need to look at is governance. A big plus that you have is that you're in the LSG, the Lone Star Governance. I mean, that's what they want most districts to be in. You've chosen to do that. That is big. Because not only am I here, but then you have Dr. McMahon also assisting you with how the board meetings should progress and how you should be addressing student focus and so forth. So, and I have to also address that, and also how you handle the meetings and how things are getting done. So that's that one. And then we have in the other section, the statutory compliance, which had I been brought in here because there had been no fingerprinting going on or no background checks, I would have to be addressing that because of a special accreditation investigation. Well, I wasn't brought in for that purpose. So again, that section has been collapsed. Then you have the other general activities. Well, under the other general activities, they want me to go ahead and encompass other areas like your district improvement plan, your strategic plan, which Dr. Aziz has told me that he will be working into that, but that's gonna take a long time. That's not gonna get done overnight. The community has to get involved with that, and that's a long process. It probably will be a year before that gets it put in place. So those are things that we've discussed, but it'll be a long process. Things are moving along really well. I mean, I'm pleased. For some people, it may not seem that way, but it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time. And you've just, what, Dr. Aziz has barely been here a month. So you've had an interim, and before that, you know, you've let go of the other superintendent, so it will take time. You have a CFO now, human resources. Those are your recent hires that you all have done. Things are changing, and you're being very transparent, very transparent. The other section is the status report. The status report, mainly the first section, addresses all of your board meetings. The date of the board meetings, and what type of board meeting it was, whether I was present here. And if you'll notice, because I started it from January, I wasn't a conservator at the time until March. So as a monitor, I did not have to attend the board meetings. But after that, they started to appear. And I have to attend at least 80% of the board meetings. Then was the agenda posted? And also, how many of the board members were present at each board meeting? How many minutes did it last? And they're recommending that no more than 2 hours, which would be 120 minutes, and no more than 2 minutes, no more than 2 meetings, preferably one, that would be ideal. And then how many minutes you spend on student focus. Hopefully, in the near future, once you approve your AE policy and the community meeting and so forth, that we will start to see all of that appear in there. I have to track all of this information. And then the last one, the last section there is the purpose of my visits. And usually I try to come when the board meetings are happening, since I'm already gonna be here, and try to address some of the financial issues and any other issues and so forth. And the duration of my visit, and the purpose, and the summary of the outcomes. Are there any questions on this?
On the column, the fifth one over, agenda includes discussion of installment. What does that mean?
Oh, every quarter from now on, I have to be addressed my quarterly report. So during the next quarter, I have to address it and bring out any issues and so on.
Oh, so that means that
I-
a discussion of installment means you're reviewing the quarterly report with us?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
We got a check for next one. We got a check for next one.
And then my other question is, if folks want to read this, look at it, what's the easiest way to get it?
Well, it's available, they have it on it's on your, it's here, but it's available. in your
I'm
book.
talking about publicly, the community, anyone in.
Oh, yeah, I guess whoever your public information officer
Okay.
is, they could obtain a copy of it.
FYI for those
Yes.
that want to read
That's
the
who they would
nitty-gritty
go
of
to,
this.
and it's readily available, so there would be no cost, I imagine, for this.
Madam Conservator, if given DISD a grade, now that we're changing to the grade level, where do we stand? I'm curious, because everything you're saying is kind of like job security for you. Because obviously you've got to get paid to be here.
You know, I knew you were gonna say that, Mr. Billman, but I have certain parameters that I've got to cover in here. If you'll notice, the criteria for me to exit out in financial accountability
You're
has to
talking a
be
whole
a
year
C
from now.
a C or higher. But that's a long time. And you think that, but you just hired a CFO in May, right? She's already behind because 10 months into the year, and she's coming in May. She's just doing the budget right now. I mean, she is actually putting out fires right now. The health insurance, the budget, and so forth. She's got to go back and do internal control procedures. She's got to do regular procedures. I've got her doing cash forecasts because guess what? You are dipping into your fund balance. She's got to be aware of where your cash is going and forecasting if you're going to have a shortfall further down the line. And that is all trying to keep you afloat. Not that you have a good fund balance, but you keep dipping into it, it's really going to hurt you. I mean, there's a purpose here. If you were in the academic accountability, you had improvement required campuses, I would have to stay in there too and be addressing the campuses and being out at the campuses and looking at your lesson plans and how the teachers are implementing lesson plans and so forth. So,
I mean, when looking at this, we have the longest to go as it relates to this first one, the financial accountability. So,
that is the longest to go, but remember where you all also are with the Lone Star Governance Plan. The Lone Star Governance Plan actually takes 2 years to implement fully. But when you do, the criteria for that is once you get 45 points in consecutive quarters and all the rest is met, I might be able to pull from that section. From that section. But the financial accountability is still gonna last there for a while.
And I think Ms. Cancino made a comment the other day, we already have the new auditors coming in to
Yes.
start working toward the next audit, so I think that that's a positive.
That's a very good, correct, and you're gonna have them doing interim, and this is
Yes.
excellent. But I gave Dr. Aziz 2 directives today, and one of them was, when the audit was presented, everybody was glad that it was finally presented, but there were a lot of findings on that audit.
Right.
We can't forget about those findings.
Right.
Somebody needs to be addressing all those findings, and that's one of the things that I told him. You've got to have your CFO assign or delegate to someone, oversee and monitor that, so that they are fully implemented by November 30th. Why did I pick November 30th? Because he wants the audit presented by December.
Right.
Well, one of the things in the audit is that, did you address all these findings, and where are you at, and what are the procedures in place? So,
I know there was over 100 findings and.
well, that was 100 journal entries, but I think it was 22 findings.
22 findings, correct.
22
I wasn't here
findings.
for when y'all did the.
Some of them have been addressed, other ones we are in the process, and some will take longer than others to address.
And I know that there was several findings from the previous year's audits
Yes.
that were there that have
Yes.
never been
Yes.
addressed.
Yes.
And I think we've already addressed them, right?
Yes.
So we're already making progress on
And,
that.
and there's a couple of them that you have to acquire services. Like they do mention that you should get an actuary
Yes,
Yeah.
and
for
we're working,
workers' comp
we're already working on that.
and so
That's
forth.
another conversation.
Yes.
More
Yes.
complex. Actuary.
But we are in discussion, so, for the
Yes.
actuarial report.
Any questions?
Still don't get a grade.
Yeah.
She's afraid to tell us.
That's simple.
Maybe we don't want to know.
Yeah, probably
This is
best.
pass or
Till we
fail.
see that grade.
I thought I had told you that I think you're doing well. You are. You're trying to do the right thing. However, I know you want to get things done like that, Mr. Billman.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't
it's
happen
gonna
yesterday.
take time. It's gonna take time. Your superintendent's been here a month.
And I was given 2 directives to Mr. Billman.
Yeah, I for one am glad that you're here, because we did have a lot of issues that needed to be looked into. And with your presence, it has helped us to get to
Follow through.
follow through on some of them. And we're gonna make sure that we get through on all of them.
You will get there. You will get there.
All right, number 2, State Accountability Report 2017 to 2018 school year.
Board President and board members, last week we had our official accountability results released by TEA. So we put a nice presentation for you to share this information. I just want to say a few things. First of all, in a positive note, today was really Friday was the first day for our teachers back. But Friday they had a work day, so they were mainly in their classrooms. Today is really the first day where they got together. They have like PD and training going on their campuses, and so it was really. I enjoyed really today visiting 16 campuses. I went to visit 16 campuses.
Ooh.
I took Mr. Rana with me and Mr. Angel and
That's a road show
also I
in
know
one day.
we went to Chief Weldon, and so we visited 16. We still have 6 more to go. We're gonna get them tomorrow. But it was really nice to see our teachers and our staff and our principals really working together as a team, excited about the school year. So I wanted just to let you know that the energy is out there, and I know you're gonna see our presentation about accountability for the 2017-2018 school year, but I'm very, very excited and optimistic about this year. Everybody talking about taking our district to the next level. So if the campus was a C, the plan is to be a B. If the campus was a B, plan to be an A next year. So that's also very excited about the commitment and loyalty of our staff and teachers, their dedication to our students and down ISD. Just don't want to say that. So yeah, energy is in the air. Okay, so Mr. Rana.
Dr. Isais, Board President, Board of Trustees, communities, good evening. The purpose of tonight's accountability 2018 report is understanding how we calculate the rating A, B, C, D, and F. That the purpose is, the objective is understanding. And then of course I'm going to present the accountability. But just to let you know, we do not have we have a 0 campus need IR. We have all campuses met standard.
That's right.
So, and there is 0 campus, tag list campus. So we are on the move. So 0 campus tag list, all campuses met the standard. Our district made C, and I'm going to explain how did we make C, and that's the purpose of tonight's workshop. The overall design of the accountability system, if we compare from the last year accountability system, we used to have 4 index. Now we are moving to the domains 1, 2, and 3. So last accountability system, we have index 1, student achievement, student progress, closing the performance gap, and college readiness. That were the 4 indices from the old system. So the new system has 3 domains. Domain 1, student achievement. And I'm going to show how we calculate the student achievement. The second is the student's progress. In student progress, we have 2 parts, part A, part B, and then the C, the domain 3 is a closing the performance gap, which is closing the performance gap is a SR domain, which is the federal government domain. So let's dig more domain 1. So domain 1, as you see on the top, 60-30 Texas. It's saying year 2030, our 60% of students in state of Texas, they will have some type of degree or some type of industry certification. Why they use the number 60? There is a research out there describe that 60% of the population, in order to have a job, they need some sort of degree or certification. So they pick that number 60. By 2030, 60% of our population will be able to work at the outside, available for the workforce. So let's take a look domain 1 student achievement. Student achievement, we have a 3 stages like elementary, middle school, and then the high school. Elementary and middle school, they are very simple, calculating the student achievement. You look at the 3 level of scores, approaches, meets, and master. Add them up, divide by 3, and that is your domain 1 score. I place some calculators at your desk, so we are going to calculate. So we are going to hands-on, so you can understand. The objective of today is understanding the system.
How do you turn it on?
So if you look at the elementary, 100%, middle school, star is 100%, but when it comes to the high school, we have a 40% star, 40% of college career and military readiness, and 20% is graduate rate. Let's take a look of I want to show you first thing where we are in terms of all 3 domains. So just very quick, so that we can understand where we are in terms of all 3 domains. We have a 3 column. Overall, we made C, our scale score was 77. We missed by 3 points to make B. I just want to, we are aware there's just 3 points away to make a B at district wide. And we are digging more, we are digging deep to understand where we lost 3 points. And then I'm going to throw some lights, and then I'm going to show at the end the implication, our plan for the 18-19. The first is student achievement. As I said that student approaches, meets, and master, add them up, divide by 3, we got 40. Did you see the number 40 there? This 40, and we are going to go in a minute how we got the 40. So the 40 turned into the scale score. If the scale score conversion table, this 40 converted into 70 using the scale score conversion table. The TEA provided in the 2018 accountability manual. So that stands for C. So if it is a 70, C, 80, B, and 90 and above is A. So we have a star performance, we have a college career and military readiness, and the graduation rate. Then we have school progress. We have school progress, it has 2 parts. We have made 70 and 42. 70 in conversion table come up to 80. 42 on conversion table come to 79. So when you look at the domain 2, you look at the best of 2. So which one is the best, 80 or 79? 80. So then we look at the domain 1 and domain 2, which is best, 70 or 80? 80. So that's the number we use, the best of 2 and then best of domain 1 and domain 2. So and then domain 3, we got 31 conversion, using the conversion table, we got 71 and then we got C. So you could see overall rating is C, student achievement we made C, school progress we made B, and then closing the performance gap, we got C. So add them up, all of them, we got overall in district made C. So now I'm going to show you very quick the how we got C. Okay? If you look at the overall, you see the approaches is 70. If you can use the calculator, please. Add 70, 37, and 13. It gives you what number it gives you? 70, 37, and 13. What number gave you? 120 divided by 3. 40. 40 using the conversion table, just like I showed you. 40 using this conversion table gives you what? 70, and 70 is what? C. So now, if you look at that, the 70, 37, and 13, we know where to work. We know we need to increase our approaches from 70 to 90, and our meets from 37 to 60, and our 13 to 25. And that's our slogan, that's our song is 90, 60, and 30. That's our song is. So that's the song we are going to sing all year long. 90, 60, and 30. We want to see our approaches is 90, our meets is 60, and our master is, so that we can make A or A plus. Yes, sir, please.
So we trying to make it simpler, right? So for our staff, our teachers, it's easier for everyone to remember. And everyone, it's an easier goal than saying, no, you gotta have 45 here and it converts to 80 here and 60 here, gonna convert. If we get 90% of our kids in meet up score approaches, 60% of our students, out of those 90, 60% of them score meets, and 30% of them score masters, it's automatic A and A. It's a simple math. So it's a 90, 60, if you want an A, you gotta have a 90, 60, 30 at least.
For the whole school district,
For the school and also for the school district. For the school, it works the same way for the school as well.
individual schools.
Individual schools,
Oh,
correct.
okay. And the state sets by test what is masters, meets, and approaches,
they
right?
set
They
the cut
change
score.
by test?
They have a cut scores.
Correct.
Also, I want to say, this is the overall, and then you can go by subject. Like we have an ELA, what did you make, math, what did you make, and then writing, science, and social study. So those are the numbers. We can calculate, add them up, divide by 3, add them up, divide by 3, and you can get the individual subject score from math, social study, science, and ELA, which is writing and reading. So,
And that was the taper report there, you had Mr. Dana, right?
yeah.
What was the Region 1 average for meets, masters, approaches, meets, and masters? Can you see that on the taper report there?
No, I do not have that's not a paper report. That's like an accountability report. Paper report usually come in October.
Yeah, but the paper report, Ms. Reina, they're changing it. TDA, when I had that conversation I had with them, they're changing it. So it won't look exactly the same. It will be a little bit slightly different. But what we have is individual scores. So we know, for example, what McAllen got, right? We know what Westlaco scores got. So we have some of their scores, but we don't have the paper report with all details. We don't have that yet.
Okay,
TA will
and
respond.
the only reason why I asked was the 90, 60, 30, just thinking about how ambitious that is relative to like our region.
Correct.
That's the reason I was asking, just as a comparison.
Yeah, and it's very ambitious, and you can, the school district and schools can get an A by, as a rating, overall rating, but by getting an A in domain 1, which is the 90, 60, 30, or they can get an A also if because remember the TA looks at the best of domain 1 or 2. So for some schools, they won't get the 90, 60, 30, let's say they get a B on that one, but when it comes to student growth in domain 2, their students will show high growth compared to other students, and they can get an A through that as well. But if you do 90, 60, 30 in domain 1, regardless of domain 2 scores, you're automatically going to get an A. And domain 1 or 2 represents 70% of the accountability system. So if you have, let's say, a 93, 94 in domain 1 or 2, and domain 3, let's say you get an 80 some, when you do the math, when you do the
Doesn't
formula, it's not
weigh
gonna
the same.
exactly, because it weighs 70% of that total amount, the total rating.
This is example why we are picking in 90, 60, and 30. You see, like they are giving just example, 92.7%, 60.6%, 27.3%. If you add them up, divide by 3, it's a 60.2, which is convert to A, B, C, D, you make A. So the number you see, 60, is converted to A grade. 48 is equal to B grade. 35 is equal to C grade. And below 37 is C grade, and below 32 is F grade. So they have all the cut scores, where it will be A, where it will be B, C, D, and F. So in order to make A, just like Dr. Rizai was explaining, that we have a domain 1, which is a student achievement. We may not progress very quickly to 90, 60, and 30, but we may progress. I'm going to show you in a minute how far are we as compared to state. I'm going to show you in slide 11 and other slides. So how far are we from state, that we can see? How far are we? Any question on how to calculate A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, F? All right, so the other part, when we go to the high school, we have a college, career, and military readiness. So there are 3 parts: college readiness, military readiness, and career readiness and military readiness. So there are 3 different grades we get. And then the college ready means what's our TSI score, how we are doing dual enrollment and dual credit on courses. Career ready is based on the industry certification, and military is enlisted in the United States Armed Force. So these are 3 things: college ready, career ready, and military ready.
So for our student outcome goals, I'm like getting excited, right? Because one of the student outcome goals, if you all remember in a workshop, we talked about one of them being college and career readiness. This, if you'll go back 1 slide, there, Ms. Banner, those are like the progress, what do they call them? Progress monitoring indicator measure. What the superintendent essentially is going to look at, what's the data along the way that's going to tell us if the district's on track to meeting that ultimate student outcome goal that we set by, remember, X% of students college and career ready by 20X, like that's what we're going to bring back to the board here in the next month. But these are like the things that very specifically we have mapped out on the board calendar over the course of the year, where we would be spending time going in depth on some of these indicators. And we'd be looking at the data and what it's telling us about the progress toward those. And those are the goals that we would use to evaluate the superintendent's effectiveness.
And Ms. Virena, this is equal to 40%. So the 40% grade is coming from these 3 things: college ready, career ready, and the military ready. 40% is coming from there. So domain is the high school. So this is like a breakdown of more than ISD college, career, and military readiness. As you see, graduate with a completed individual education program IEP, we have a 0%, and this is the area we need to really make progress. So we know already which area we need to really hit more, and then work hard, analyze more, so we can improve the score. The graduation rate is at 20%. Graduation rate is at 20%, and we also got hit from graduation rate, and I'm going to show you in a minute. Graduation dropout rate is 2, and we have a 6-year, 5-year, 6-year, 5-year, and 4-year, and then we saw like the 6 years was 88.70. That's supposed to be 90%. So we did not get the graduation, 20% of graduation. This is another example how we get the domain 1 for high school, like a 40%, 40%, and 20%. So you see the 40% star score, 40% is a college, career, and military readiness, and then the 20% is a drop the graduation rate. So that's the slide I was talking. So we can see as compared to state now, Ghana is 70% approaches. State is what? 77%. We are behind, but we are not that far. We are going to catch up. But the work we need to do is meets, where is 37%, state is what? 48%. So we are behind here, that's where we need to catch up. And then the master state is 22%, we are 13%, and that's another area we need to really work very hard to improve our score in meets and master. So just to explain very quickly, approaches mean the students are not at grade level. They are performing, their cut score is a little bit low, they are not at passing standard. Meets mean the students are at grade level. And that's our goal is. The 60, 30, the 60, and that's what the goal is. Our goal is making sure this number is 60. Now right now we are 37, and hopefully we are going to get there. Any question?
And I want to just say the whole, if you go back one slide, yes, that one. So remember that we can get an A in domain 1 or domain 2. The whole bit, let's say if we cannot get to the 90-60-30 and get an A through domain 1, is that we work so hard with our students and to meet their needs. So if we don't get an A with domain 1, we will get it when it comes to growth. In other words, we're going to grow our students. They may not get there, but we're going to grow them so much that would be a bigger growth than other students with similar demographics in the state, and that way we can get an A. So that's really the goal, is to aim for the A, but if we don't get the A with domain 1, we can grow kids or students enough, then we can get an A through domain 2.
And we are not that far. I'm going to go there in domain 2. We will be very proud to the work the students they have done, the teachers they have done. This is really awesome. Domain 2, that's where we are going to go. It's the school progress. Part A is academic growth. It's like the number of students that grew at least 1 year academically as measured by star result. That's what Dr. Izai is talking. The other is part B, the achievement of students relative to similar district or campuses. So our district is 94% economically disadvantaged. We have about 12%, 8.9% students, they are special education, and so forth. So they look at the similar district, they have a similar population in the state of Texas, and then they compare us where we stand. If we compare with those districts, they have a similar population like us, and I'm going to show you in a minute. So like this domain 2 has a 2 parts. One is academic growth, the whole student is growing. The part B is relative performance, how the campus is performing as compared to the other campuses in the state. So this is part A. So we have a math, reading, and academic growth. Because student progress, you might be thinking, why I just brought math and reading? Because student progress is measured only in math and reading, not in writing, not in science, and not in social studies. The reason is simple. The science, they test only 5th and 8th. There is no other test to measure students' growth. Writing is only 4th and 7th. There is no way you can measure the students' growth. And social studies only in 8th grade you can measure students' growth. The only subject you can measure the growth is reading. They're testing from 3rd to 8th grade, then English 1 and English 2. Math, they're testing 3rd to 8th, Algebra 1. So therefore, they are just bringing 2 subjects to see the students' progress, math and reading. If you look at the math, the Dana ISD is what? 72, state is what? 70. So you could see our students' progress is we are neck to neck with the state. And that's what Dr. Iza is saying. If we miss the domain 1, student achievement, we are going to get through the domain 2, which is the student's growth. And we are very hopeful that we will get there. And reading, you see the Dana ISD is 69, state is 69. And Dana ISD is above the state. So state is 69, Dana ISD is 70. So we are growing our students academically higher than the state. And that's our goal is. making sure our students grow. Our students grow academically, and that's the domain 2, where we are going to make sure that we grow enough this year, 18-19, that we get the score. This is a part B, relative students' performance. So you see the dispersion, the major dispersion, like this scatter plot, A, B, C, D, F. So we need to be, if we want to be A, we need to be above the average line, which is the C. If we draw the line, regression line, average line, and if we are above the average line, we are getting the grade AB, or if below the average line, DF. So let's take a look. And Dr. Ida just explained this thing, how we calculate, and we also explained school progress part A, academic growth is 72, school progress part B, relative progress is 82. Which one we should pick, A or B? B. So that's how they go. So this will be the score for school progress. All right. You see the blue dot. This is the blue dot represent Dana ISD. So if we put all the campus in the state of Texas, they have a similar population like us, 94% economically disadvantaged and special education, and the lab students 48.9%, and so on and so forth. We are right there at the B. You see the blue line? Our goal is crossing the blue and going to the sky color. That's our goal is. So we, as compared to the other district in the state of Texas, we are in better shape. Not the best shape, better shape. And our goal is going to the best. As this, I will explain this chart. On x-axis, you see the economically disadvantaged. On y-axis, you see the star and CCMR. So they are comparing two axes, y-axis and x-axis, and then seeing where is our dot is. Question. So this is our now domain 3. That's where we need. And
this kind of, does TEA offer that, like, so we could see like where campuses in region 1 fall in this graph?
Yeah,
you can see outliers and stuff?
Yeah, they have not released yet, but they are going to make it.
They will.
Officially,
okay.
yes.
So we can really see the outliers.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And the domain 1 and domain 2 was equal to 70%, whichever the best times 70%. Now I'm explaining domain 3, which is a 30% of our state accountability. And that's a domain we need to really work very hard. This is a ESSA domain, which is every student succeed act federal government. So this is what we need to work very hard. This has a demographic, which is all students, and then 7 ethnicities. 7 ethnicities: African American, Hispanic, White American, Indian, Asian, Pacific Islander, 2 or more. 7 ethnicity. And then we have a socioeconomic background, which is ED students, which is economically disadvantaged, special education, former special education, current and monitor English language learner, continuously enrolled and non-continuously enrolled. So we are looking now sub-part, each student.
This is what, I don't know if you're familiar with, it used to be called IYP. This is kind of the IYP, the old IYP you put in domain 3.
I just want to explain on one pie chart. You look at the whole pie is equal to 30%. Now I'm putting it to 100%. So actually it's a 30%. So grade level performance is 50%. And just want to let you know, the state, they don't look at the approaches. They look at only what? Meets. And that's where this domain is hard. Because we are looking at the students only at grade level, not the approaches. And of course, the masters, they look at that. But they are looking at the needs. So this is coming 50%, the yellow part. And then the student achievement, which is coming from student part A, part B, which is 30%. Then English language proficiencies is coming 10%. Academic growth, graduation rate, 10%. So you add them up, 100% times 30, 30%. So the SR domain, I call SR domain, this is the closing the performance gap, is 30%. Again, I explained ethnicity and how we we made C here. In this domain, we made C. We made 71 out of 100. So we made grade level performance 25%. Our goal is 60%. It's a very ambitious goal, but we are going to get there. Academic growth, graduation rate. As I mentioned that the goal was 90%, we made 88.6%. English language proficiency, we made 100%, and student achievement, we made 29%. If you add them up, we made 71 out of 100. That's why we made C grade in there. If you look at the grade level performance target, the possible target was 16. We made what? 4. And we are working very hard to get all 16 because there are 8 in math, 8 in reading. So there are special education, lab students, economically disadvantaged, and all ethnicity. We are trying to get all 8 in reading, 8 in math, total of 16. And so on. So, any question? This is just to understand how we will come back again with the official rating and all those things. And this is the closing the target. As you see, I was saying 16. You see here, ELA. All students, we made what? 44. And mathematics made what? 46, right? Yes?
Yes.
We didn't make it. And then so and so forth, all ethnicity. In the next, this one, I'm gonna go back and forth. Target was what? 44. What did we make? What did we make? 29. What was the target in math? 46. What did we make? 43. So we are behind, but not that behind, and we are going to get there. So we got both N, but in math we are not that behind the way we are in other subjects, but we're going to get there. And then we go African American, and then Hispanic. We did not get no in reading, but we got yes in math. And then the same thing, economically disadvantaged, we got no in reading, but we got yes in math. In ELL current, we get both N and N, no, no. In special education, we got both yes, yes. In special education formal, we got no, no. And continuously enrolled, no, no. So no, no. So add them up all YNN, there are 16. So we made only 4 yes out of 16, and that's where you saw the previous slide.
And 3 of those 4 were in math.
And then this is a closing graph, growth in and graduation, growth status. And then you see we made both growth, and that's the Board of Trustees, we need to really look at the growth. Are we growing at the district-wide? We are growing. But we need to probably grow at rapid speed than the speed we have. And that's our goal is, growing our district at rapid speed. But we are growing as a district. So you see, in both areas, we got yes and yes, in both reading and math. The target was 66 in reading, we got 69. Target was 71, we got 72 in math. And then the rest of the report is that way. So you can see, like in Hispanic, we made both yes, and so on and so forth. Question. So that was the growth and graduation. Closing the gap, English language proficiency, there was only, the goal was 42, we made 44, we met this target. Closing the performance gap, we are going now in the student success, the STAR component target in the high school, and then you have the target, we made both no, no, and then no, yes, and no, and so on and so forth. And weight of average is 70 for domain 1 or 2, and 30% domain 3. District rating level, This year, district is labeled A, B, C, D, F. Campus are not labeled. Campus will be met standard or did not meet standard. So all our campus, they did meet standard. All of our campus. And there is a 0 campus in our district who is PET. So that's like a very positive. This is the Dana ISD district data. You see student achievement, what did we make? C. In student school progress, what did we make? B. And closing the performance gap, we made C. Overall, we made C. So you could see very positive. The school progress, we made B. And that's the main thing is that we are making sure our students are performing better. And this is a campus rating. As you see, we have all our Dana ISD school met standard. All of our schools met standard. And there are few campuses, they got the distinctions. And then you see the dot meaning distinction. So let me give you Dana High School. Dot is under science. They got the distinction in biology. Dana High School. Dana North High School, they got the distinction under math. And we have a one campus, elementary campus, Guzman Elementary, they made 6 out of 6 star. So that's a 6-star campus, Guzman Elementary. Is anyone from Guzman Elementary? Great job, Guzman Elementary, 6 star out of 6 star. We have a Solis Middle School, they made 6 star out of 7. And we have other campus, they made 4 star, like a third middle school, they made 4 star out of 7, and so on and so forth. All dot shows if they got the distinction. And what if the A through F rating was applicable to all the campuses, and that is your letter grades, all the campus. You could see Stanky Elementary made B, Salinas Elementary made B, Munoz Elementary made B, Castres Elementary made B, Adame Elementary, Guzman Elementary made B, Adame Elementary made B. These are our 6 campuses, they made B if we had rated them A through F rating this year. But this year they are just labeled met standard or did not meet standard or met alternative standard. And the rest of the campus we have a C and we have a Gaza Elementary, we made D, but there is no campus which needs improvement required. All campus met standard. And this is the middle school, we have a 3 middle schools. So Sada Middle School made B, Solis made B, Third made B, and we have 1 campus, Veteran Middle School, they made C, if we have rated them A through F rating. We have Dana High School and Dana North and 3D Academy. We made Dana High School C, Dana North C, and we have a campus with 3D Academy, we made D, if we have rated A through F this year. Now the next step is, any question before we talk about the next step? Our next step is, goal is 90-60-30. And why we are saying 90-60-30? Because that's the way to make it. We are not going to make other goal just 90-60-30. That's the song we are going to sing. District-wide overall rating goal is at least B. That's our goal is. Overall rating, increase 1 letter grade from C to B next year, 18-19. And we are going to prioritize domain 3, where we have all 7 ethnicity and special POPs. We need to increase all special POP scores and the 7 ethnicity scores. We are going to develop deep understanding of the data. We are meeting with the principal this Friday, explaining the same thing I explained to you in more detail. And then we are going to go campus dig more, that where we fall behind, where we are short, what we need to do, how can we strategize, what subject, which area, how we can help the campuses to get from C to B, B to A, and then district from C to B. Increase means level achievement, and that's the way to go. Organize district level and campus level PD to understand the accountability system and implementation of the plan we will have.
Has TA said if they're going to move eventually to the A to S for individual campuses?
They will be added in January. They are going to release in January, but next year, 1920, this will be A through F rating for the campuses too.
Yes, starting 20 years. So this year, whatever we're gonna do this year, our campus will do this year, they will be rated with the A through F system this time next year. Yes.
Thank you.
So, as you notice, I mean, the system is very complex, right, and has a lot of component, and, you know, obviously, we are teaching our students and we're working hard with them. We wanna grow, we're sure they're doing excelling, but we also have to understand the rules of the games, because this is somehow, like, it's very complex. It's not just teach and will happen. You have to understand there's different demographics that you have to consider in consideration. There are different graduation, how much percent of kids who are graduating, how many of them are going to college, how many of them are going to the military. There are so many different components, so it really starts with us explaining all this in depth to our campuses, our principal, APs, teachers, staff, everybody, so that at least they have a better grasp of what's needed, what DA is looking for. So then when we plan, when we execute, we have to have those goals in mind, right? Because we wanna be, ultimately we wanna be in a district. We wanna be the district here in the valley.
Do you think there's some of the documentation is, you know, I would think that there's more kids being career ready out there that aren't being fully documented, you know, by our staff.
We are looking at the industry certification and, yes, sir.
And then that could be, Mr. Guerrero, it could be, we're looking at everything. I think when it comes to our graduation rate is the high 80s. When you look at other school districts around us like McAllen, I mean, they're 90, 93, 94. So we want to have, obviously, we want to do the right thing for our kids, and we want to make sure that more of them are graduating and either going to college, going to a career, or having some kind of certification. So it's really the right thing for our students. But you're right, I mean, we have to look at coding, how they are coded in the system, and also what's happening with them. So yes, we have to work with all that and analyze a little bit deeper to find out what we can do to help our students and ultimately also increase our rating, because that is our goal.
And the TA has some really good videos for any of the board members want to go in there and I feel like they put out some really good videos that succinctly explain the accountability system. And then there's some school districts, I went on YouTube and Googled like Texas new A2F accountability system, and McAllen superintendent had a video on YouTube talking about their accountability system and where McAllen ended up. So there's a lot of really good resources out there if you prefer to like watch a video or listen to something versus like a reading.
This is a 1 minute to 2 minute video. It's not longer more than 3 minutes. Like a 1.5, 2 minute, 2.5 minute. It's a very, like 6 videos they have on the TA website. You just go there, watch all the videos, they explain everything within 1 minute. Explanation in 1 minute from TA website. Question?
Anybody have questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gana.
Okay, moving on, under consent agenda number 3, we're gonna have to act on that individually because it was presented earlier today, and on here, there wasn't anything saying which company or organization was gonna be recommended. So we're gonna go ahead and do that one separately. Yes, because that was the presentation they gave us before. So on the consent agenda, I'm gonna need a motion on that.
I move.
So motion by Dr. Mary to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Avila, all in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. On number 3, approval of the RFP number 1018-378 for third-party administration self-funded health insurance, medical, ASO, stop-loss, and PBM services for 2018-2019 school year. And this is the presentation that we got earlier in the evening. And I think we had a recommendation.
The recommendation is to approve United Healthcare with the EPO plan.
Okay, that's the recommendation. We'll need some motions.
I move.
Motion by Dr. Mary,
Second.
second by Ms. Reina. All in favor? Favor? All opposed? Okay, do we have another motion?
y'all need more time? Because we do need both on this.
Yeah. I'd like to make a recommendation that we table this item and kind of look at it a little bit better.
I don't know if we can table
I
given the
don't know if we
timeline.
could, I mean, the thing is, we have to move on.
I meant time as in right now.
No,
To
we
discuss.
table it. We could discuss it and make it a special meeting.
We need to submit our information to our provider for enrollment. We kick
How long
off
do we have?
open enrollment. Well, we're already late. We were supposed to have it done by last week. We need to start open enrollment September 1st because we have a plan year starting October 1st. So they
Okay.
need to set up the platform on the system.
Something I did not hear here is
Yes, sir.
offering the gap. I know before in the
That's
past.
the supplemental
That's-
insurance.
yes.
It's not
That's
part
in
of
there. If
this,
you look at item number 10, C10,
yeah.
your
That's-
approval of a gap, you already approved that.
Right here.
for
Yeah.
Insurance,
Oh, okay. That's gonna be that.
that's already there.
The only one we're looking at is the medical.
The medical, pharmacy, and stop loss.
And this was brought up to all the committee?
Yes, sir, all of it. The presentation you saw was everything they saw there. Everything was presented to them. That is correct.
And the staff was good with that?
We had, I can't remember how many members voted, but we only had one that voted against it.
And how many were you?
How many were we?
There was about 31
Yeah,
members
about 30.
was-
there, but not all of them voted, because a lot of them left before we were able to vote, so I left it at the office, but there was 15 that actually voted.
Out of the 30-something?
Yes. Like actual members.
What other questions do folks have that will help them get the information they need?
Mr. Jaramillo, were you at these meetings?
No.
You were not. Were you invited to these meetings? Okay. It's very crucial that our insurance guy should have been there.
Is
I mean,
that
if you
not
have
what
any
we're
questions that
calling?
we can answer now?
Is there,
Thursday.
what is it that is holding us up from taking the vote and moving forward?
I mean, it was a very
I mean, you
thorough
heard the
presentation.
presentation, you heard the employees, I mean, you heard the administration.
Yeah,
I don't,
Mr. Avila, if you have more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, but. I
What's the
don't know.
reason that half of y'all left?
If I'll answer, the length of the meeting, I think.
Yes.
The length of the
It was,
meeting?
yes,
It was
it
supposed
was
to
a
start at
very,
11:30, it didn't
yes.
start till 1 o'clock.
correct.
And then
It-
it was
Certain-
until 4:30
yeah, I
or
mean,
5.
Some of,
Why
like-
did it start at 1? It was supposed to start at 11:30.
We were working on the last proposal, the United Healthcare, the one that they decided on was the last minute addition that we were still working on. And we had our insurance consultant fly in also, so we had a little bit of a logistics problem. But we were there for about 5 hours.
Okay.
I think maybe around 4, people started trickling out.
and those people that left had to go,
I had to go back to
like,
work.
she had to go
Yeah,
back to
that's what I'm
Candace,
saying,
like-
you know.
Yes.
But then I came back. But by the time I came back, they had already voted. They had just voted when I got back.
How would you gonna vote?
United.
United.
I mean,
I'm just
I-
trying to
I
get the
don't- we were
best, I'm just trying to get the best for y'all, you know, I just
yes,
wanna make
and
sure
that's
that
what
you
we
get
were doing.
fair.
We've all,
Yeah.
there was a no-win situation, but this was the best
Like, you're
for everybody.
like if you are not happy with this particular plan, and I'm not saying, like, as a committee, this is the plan that we recommend. The only other one that I would feel comfortable possibly recommending would be the United Healthcare leaving the out-of-network availability. But we cannot, like, you cannot you cannot foot the bill of this insurance on the employees, and if you stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield, that's what's gonna happen. Like, end of story, break it down, that's exactly what will happen. We, as the employees, will foot the bill of the increase of the insurance.
Mr. Jaramillo.
And that's not financially
Feasible for.
feasible for the majority of us, if not the entirety of the employees of the district.
Have you been able to, Mr. Jaramillo, have you been able to look over the presentation, or what
I
happened?
didn't, but I think, based on the presentation, I did ask Jared about some other things to look at, like maybe lowering the copay and increasing the deductible, maybe offering an out-of-network benefit as a buy-up option. But basically, I think the committee felt comfortable with that in-network only benefit.
I mean, and the savings here would be 2.3 million for that option 2 bundle.
And we just heard a conservator present how we cannot be dipping into our fund balance.
All right.
Or she's gonna have to be on longer, and that's
gonna
gonna,
cost you.
it's gonna cost us because
The
we're having to
2.3?
pay for the conservator. And that shows that we're not doing our due diligence and fiduciary responsibilities.
I would also like to point out that throughout the whole process, I been in contact with her. And she was part of the meeting.
How do you
And
feel about this, Ms. Romero?
I think you really don't have a choice. You don't, you have to look at the cost savings. That's the major, thing that you've gotta look at, the cost savings. You're not giving up that much, really.
Actually, plan design, you're losing 15%, right?
No.
15% of the doctors.
no, we
It's
don't,
even less.
No,
We won't
is
know.
it less than that?
We won't know.
We
what-
won't know yet.
That was one of the things that we don't know. We
You
will not
don't?
know
Yeah.
how
We don't know
many individuals are gonna be affected going out of network with United. Right now, we know if we stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're gonna lose, it was 99.8% of us that use in-network. We will not know what the out-of-network going to United Healthcare, what the out-of-network percentage will increase or decrease, because there was no way to compare. We did ask for that, okay, how many of us are in-network using these doctors? I can speak personally, my doctor is not in that network, I can speak for my sister, her son's doctor is not in that network, but I know they called some of their doctors, they were. So we don't know if that out-of-network is gonna increase or decrease in going with United.
And sometimes the doctors, if they know, they have a patient pool, that is, that they need to consider applying for being in network. I mean, they contract the doctors, there's negotiations, you have to accept a fee schedule from that insurer, and some doctors are not willing, they wanna get the most they can, who wouldn't? But sometimes because you wanna be able to service a patient population, you agree to take a cut in what you're getting paid by the insurance company. And so it's up to each individual physician also, if they apply and they're accepted, that they agree to that contract of the fee schedule. So some doctors don't like to they wanna get paid above and beyond, and others are willing to say, okay, I'm able to make do with less, but service a larger community of patients. So, I mean, that's what I understand that Blue Cross is a good insurance, but I know we cannot sustain it financially. And it's just going to put a burden on our employees if they have to, that $6,000 out of network, I have a $5,000 deductible. And thank goodness, nobody's ended up in the hospital, but I pay $800 plus for my husband and family. And mine is $800, so I'm dishing out $1,600 a month.
Again, thank you, Dr. Mayor. The intention really, or the intent of the administration really, and we had this conversation back and forth, is really to reduce, again, the burden on our staff, on our teachers. Really, we didn't want to increase their deductible and copay and all that stuff. Really, we are trying to think outside the box and figure out a way how we can reduce, again, the burden on them. But we also understand as a district, we are putting in 1.7 million for the first plan and 2 million extra that the district is paying. I want to remind everybody we still dipping into our, that's right, and so.
But versus
we
5 million, I mean, yeah.
We try, really, the intent is really trying to help our staff.
All right, well, I'm gonna vote
teachers.
for. I'll vote for.
We need a motion.
Need a motion.
Again?
Okay, take the vote again, need a motion?
I move
Motion by Dr. Mary to approve,
Second.
second by Mrs. Reina.
Favor.
Favor.
Favor?
In favor.
Favor? Motion carries.
And you voted Ceniceros?
Yes.
In
Favor.
Okay.
Unanimous.
The executive session is authorized by Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, .072, .073, .074, .075, .076, .082, .083, and .084. Time is 8:40. Okay, it's 9:41, and we're back in open session to take possible action on matters discussed in executive session. Letter A, discussion and possible action to approve the superintendent's recommendation of personnel. Approval of recommendation for professionals, paraprofessionals, and auxiliary personnel.
Yeah, we have, the list.
Do you need a motion?
2 bus aides, 3 bus drivers, but no approval needed for that.
There was bus aids, also there's a bus aids.
I move.
Oh, the 2 bus, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a motion by Dr. Mary to approve,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Billman. All in favor?
In favor?
Favor.
Favor? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action regarding district personnel.
No.
No action. Letter C, discussion and possible action to approve pending or contemplated litigation, settlement matters, and/or matters where the professional duty under state board requires private consultation with the school attorney.
This is not.
No action. Need a motion to adjourn.
No.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Mary, second by Ms. Reina. All in favor?
Favor.
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 Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Time is 9:42. Have a good evening.